Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the UKEL. My name is Drake. I'm joined by Rory and Temporal, and we're here to bring you guys through round one of playoffs, finally. I mean, we've been waiting so long. How are you guys feeling ahead of today?
Good, excited to see it like all really ramping up now.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting.
It's the end of this cross-group shenanigans. Everyone's back together. Everyone in one big bracket. Can't wait to see the upper bracket. You know, these teams that have been split apart, that are at the top of our standings, really starting to face off and show us who will be the favorite going through playoffs.
Yeah, and it's between teams that it's been a while since we've seen them face each other, right? I mean, you were talking about it a bit earlier, Temporal. Ruddy and Paragon, it's been about 2 seasons since they've played last, right?
Yeah, last met in playoffs in spring.
Mm.
And you know, it wouldn't have gone the way it expected. Paragon did send Ruddy down 2-1. And while there have been a few changes since then, everyone expected Ruddy to do that on the day as well. So we'll keep measured, even if maybe that's not how I'm expecting things to go. I'll repeat my mistakes. Why not?
Yeah, and I mean, in my opinion, I mean, obviously we made a few predictions earlier on. I also did lean towards the Ruddy side, and I mean, I didn't get to see Rory's prediction. Rory, what was yours?
So I'm 2-1 Ruddy because I think Ruddy are going
Okay.
to pull something absurd out the bag and run it on the pit. So yeah, I'm giving
Is
them a
Drake,
just
that's a prediction.
I'm giving them a throwaway game,
Yeah.
basically. Not to tear Paragon fans and Paragon players down at all, but I do think Ruddy as a whole are a stronger team, and so unless Paragon really outplays, it does help them if Ruddy
Yeah.
kind of, picks off meta that doesn't really work.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like
I can't remember if it's still girlies for Paragon in Twitch chat. I forget exact hashtag that's been spammed all season.
Was it
But lower
femboys?
bracket, your best
Paragon?
chance tonight, I think.
yeah, it's a bit scary for sure. I mean, if they go lower bracket, I think it's a face off against Venomcrest, who they played recently as well. So it's not like the worst case scenario if they do shoot down towards that lower bracket. So it's not single elimination today, right? This game is a little bit more relaxed than I would say like the later games moving on towards the rest of the playoffs. But Paragon definitely have some big shoes to fill if they want to take home a series against Ruddy, right? We were talking about it earlier. And I feel like, you know, obviously Paragon's track record not winning a single series against Verdant. I think the only games they took home were against like Belfast and a couple of the other mid-table teams. So we have yet to see them actually step up to the plate. I don't know how you feel about that, Temporal.
It's hard, isn't it? Because it was such a long time ago as well. It does sort of feel like a little bit like Paragon with the kids that broke in. And while they did come second in spring and go forwards and have a pretty decent show at RPS, falling just short of the prize they were after of NLC2 promotion, it still feels like Ruddy have probably got their answer. And then this is the upgraded Ruddy as well. Errol has been largely without peer, except a Heimerdinger, which we can talk about later if we need to, in their group so far. So let's see if Timatopper can reignite something we've been missing since spring.
Yeah, I definitely think that that's like kind of the makings of success here for Paragon, right? And I mean, you were talking about it being, you know, Ruddy all the way, Rory. Obviously, you did expect them to throw in some shenanigans. Do you feel like if they throw in a little bit too much, there could be a chance where, you know, Paragon are able to take home the series?
I mean, yeah, too many shenanigans, absolutely. But even on some less common picks, I'll be generous there. Like we've seen a Sinzal top come in and just dumpster lane. I'm pretty sure that was into a
Yeah.
Jax as
Yeah.
well, which frankly was a hand stiff more than anything. But like we've seen these off meta picks kind of surprise opponents right now, and I'm pretty sure Ruddy have something nasty up their sleeve.
I wouldn't be surprised to say the least. And I feel like another thing to mention, I mean, last time we saw Ruddy was ages ago, right? Like it's been so long. We've been watching the cross group stages. We've seen Paragon kind of develop as a team throughout the cross group stages and over the last few weeks. But Ruddy, I think it's nearly been 2 weeks since we've seen this team play. They've had a lot of time to recuperate, maybe gotten a little bit too relaxed. I wouldn't be surprised. Like last time we saw them, they were absolutely dominant, but they played against Lulu Jungle, right? So like,
No, you've reminded me, not again.
although like Nuclear Vikings are waiting down in that lower bracket as well. So I mean, not an easy trek ahead of them for Paragon, no matter what. And you know, maybe setting themselves up with a win here would be a really good way to actually progress towards the later stages of this tournament. But I mean, we're getting to the end now, guys. I mean, one too many losses, like 2 series losses, and you're out of this tournament. It's getting very important.
Yeah, it's kind of similar with Worlds. Everyone's like, "Yeah, I love all these teams." It's like, yeah, you are you really going to be that mean to your favorite team when the
Yeah.
criteria is top 8, top 4 in the world? And it's like, what about
Mm.
top 4 in the 4 nations? Even if you really like them, there are very few opponents left to face. They are all incredibly skilled.
Mm.
A quick look ahead at our schedule here. Tonight, we do have both semifinals, the upper bracket round going on. We will be checking in with Verdant and Belfast a little bit later on if we can. We're going to keep our eyes open. But
Mm.
yeah, there's not many matches left to go.
Nearing the end, and obviously we can see Venom Crest and Nuclear Vikings waiting for their chance to be back on the stream. That's going to be in 6 days' time, so we've got a while till we see that lower bracket, and I feel like hopefully we can actually catch a little bit of that series between Verdant and Belfast. Those are 2 teams that I feel like we could have seen more of throughout the regular season. Belfast obviously winning out in the cross group stage twice to claim that spot, similarly to Paragon. But at least like that team, I feel like it has been fighting left and right. Like I'd be really excited to see Belfast and what they've become.
Yeah, they had a little bit of room for growth, let's say. And they did show it. That series went so deep, and was sort of a real pleasure to keep an eye on.
Definitely was. And I mean, Rory, you said you think Ruddy have things up their sleeves, right? Do you want to
Yeah.
leak something to us right now? Like, do you have something that you've been
Well,
studying right now?
like I said, well, it's already revealed, but some people don't watch the VOD. So Aka's Xin Zhao,
Yeah.
top specifically, is something that's a bit juicy. I know it's very much in the meta, but for those of you who are watching World, you wouldn't have seen it at all. But Sin is being big on the Corki tech.
Mm.
That's Corki bot lane ADC specifically after all the buffs. He got even more buffs on this patch. His Q does more damage, his passive does more damage. So yeah, he's a really strong lane bully right now. In that 2v2, he can 100% get a level 2 kill
And
in a
what
duo lane.
year is it? Zinzao top Corki bot lane. It's like I should have a 4-digit output for how good I am at the game. Or at least go to D199 and just sit there for the rest of the season. Like ugh, what's going on?
Hey,
Blast
I
from the
tell you, this
past.
new champion Braum is looking really cool right now.
No, his passive is incredible.
And both teams play him. I mean, I feel like the meta between these 2 teams is pretty similar. Obviously, Ruddy having a few of those like picks that they are maybe a little bit more unorthodox. But besides that, I feel like both these teams have a pretty similar meta read. I feel like they'll be contesting a lot of the same champions. I feel like Aurora will be banned from most of these games. I mean, if we're
Kenji's an
looking,
Aurora one trick, so
yeah,
yeah, seemingly, I hope so.
you would hope so.
Hmm.
But like Aurora,
crossed.
obviously, kind of strong as it is, so. I would definitely expect it to be like pretty similar champions that are contested. And I was curious, Rory,
Hmm.
with Paragon, what lanes do you think they need to win through if they are going to be able to take home a few wins and eventually the series?
So Kenji's fine on his own, but to be honest, all we've really seen him on this season specifically is the Aurora, who's a very safe laner as it is.
Yeah.
Um, I really like how Paragon look when Tim and Topra gets a lot of attention and can really snowball early. The only issue is Tim and Topra has the tendency to do the one certified int per game, where he just decides to like 2v1 tower dive a Leona,
Mm.
and it
All part
really
of the
doesn't work
scaling
out.
strategy.
Yeah, it's
Limit
it,
testing.
yeah, it's giving the opponent bounties that you can claim later. It's called the long con investment right there.
Mhm.
So I do like when Timotopra is allowed to get ahead and then unlocked on the map, especially when he plays champs like the Yone, like the Silas, who are incredibly good split pushers,
Mm.
who can't really be answered right now. Even with the Yone nerf, it wasn't really a nerf, let's be honest. So that is, yeah, that I think bot lane, fine, they're okay. I really want to see a mid lane focus.
Yeah, I think that is
Yeah.
kind of the name of the game. I mean, you mentioned split pushing, and I do feel like Ruddy kind of have had teams' numbers when they try and pull split pushing on them, and usually are actually the ones out split pushing, right? With hackers picking stuff like the Zinzao or Camille or very
Yeah.
side lane strong champions. I feel like Ruddy have been really good with their map movement this season, and on top of that, obviously, like their collapses into team fights, their setup for team fights has been pretty much like the best you could ask for here in the UKEL. So I definitely feel like Paragon need to be winning quite confidently and like aggressively in the early game to be able to kind of counteract the fact that maybe Ruddy might have better movement.
Yeah, you're sort of alluding to more of a first class of play. So we're excited about this top of the bracket, upper bracket playoff. And I do think if Paragon are going to do it, if we're going to allow Rory the one game that might happen, you're right. It does need to be this step up. I feel there are like super parallels between Ruddy and like much stronger teams. The sort of bridge they've played through in mid with Errol, the way they've had sort of the split push you mentioned, and they've managed to overwhelm their opponents. Very few of their games have looked close in a moment. And unless something really spicy has upset that momentum or really set them on kilter, it's looked absolutely fantastic in played 8 games. Can I do a percentage? 75% of the games have been
Ooh.
absolute stomps, and I'm not expecting anything different unless Paragon are really gonna dig in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited at least to see Ruddy take on a Group B team, right? That's something that we haven't seen yet is Group B teams matched up against the top of Group A. We have seen them matched up against a couple of the Group A teams, right? Venom Crest making it through notably.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm excited to see Paragon come up against Ruddy, see a team that we haven't seen, or see a face-off, I guess, that we haven't seen all season. And who knows, maybe Group B is a lot stronger than we thought they looked just because they've been in that microcosm against all the other teams that they've been playing, right? With Verdant, with Belfast Storm, and all of the others.
You think we're getting the G2 BLG experience?
It could happen.
It's gonna be like hey, you all thought you had a great calibration on what a game was, and by the way, LPL champions, they're fine. Just getting warmed up, just gonna have a go. It's very possible. We can also look to sort of the parts out of the game. I've mentioned it will be a big step up in game from the players. We've also got Coach Rob, not here tonight. Can't think why. Might be a little busy right now getting this ready.
And here we are into draft. Smolder already banned away by Ruddy, and on that red side, they've already banned away the Aurora, as we mentioned. This is kind of surprising. You were talking about Kenji being the one trick, Roy. You know why they would ban it away?
Well, they either think Akuz or Errol have a nasty Aurora, and they don't know how to play into her. The Ziggs ban, it's fine. I mean, it's an incredibly strong champ in the meta, so I don't mind a Ziggs ban right now. But paired with that early Smolder ban, that is telling me, like, that's a B1 Yone pick coming through here.
Yeah,
B1 Yone pick.
Yeah,
the ignorant wave clear from Ruddy has... They've just got rid of Paragon's ability to sit back and scale. Wouldn't be surprised to see Aurelion solve the final lock-in on their bans here. We can also go to, like, things that stay away from the wave. I think Caitlyn's not the worst shape she's been. Oh, okay.
We thought we had a read. They're banning themselves, actually.
It goes deeper. You've got rid of Timo Topper and Last sitting off a wave and not interacting, and then you've said, "Oh, you can't have the good champion either." Like, you got to not only fight us, now we want a fairer fight.
It's quite an announcement that Ruddy don't want to play Yone though.
Yeah, which is interesting. I mean, maybe it's worth saving for a game where they're on red side and they can pick it with another champion rather than
sure. But if Yone goes through, like Timo Topper is just jamming it the moment Paragon get blue side. So we're seeing a Skona locked in. Yeah, just an amazing blind pick. And then the Xin Zhao being covered here.
Ooh, that's taken. That's locked.
Oh, yeah. we got the Seraphine through. Plenty of
Seraphine's Xin.
Yeah, plenty of bans against it for Paragon this season. So their opponents ban it against them. They can play this 3 ways. Nice and defensive. I think Champion is very overtuned. It's something we don't talk about a lot because she's not, sort of the big flashiest champion.
So tanky.
Sometimes you get the team fights. She's so tanky. You're right.
So tanky for no reason. It's like she holds the stage up in front of her.
So much
to tank the hits.
It's just like it's a steel beam, and it's like
she's basically Leona, but like the shield is just a hoverboard kind of style. As we're seeing Leona being hovered here, Ruddy playing an incredibly aggressive bot lane. into this possible Seraphine.
I can't help but think there's going to be a second range support, and that Leona is going to have not a lot to do for the first few minutes. The Seraphine is like this ignorant wave, but let's see if Paragon are going to break the Seraphine flex or get something that Xin Zhao can come visit. Renekton wouldn't be the worst thing in the world here. He does struggle a little playing through the Skarner. Ezreal the lock in. Okay.
Good in mid lane, but
Could
has a
be.
decent
Yeah,
pairing
the flex
with
is still
Seraphine.
open.
Flux has played a lot previously. I mean, looks like bans are focused towards his top side now. I mean, I feel like this could just be the bot lane squared away for Paragon. And then, I mean, so far the team fight looks pretty decent for them. They have quite a decent amount of damage. They pick a little bit more damage in the mid lane. I'm not hating this draft so far, I'm gonna be honest.
No, it's coming together. Without a Gwen or something overwhelming from the top side that sort of leans on the Seraphine setup, we'll wait to see what the big outplay is. Otherwise, it might just be last full team top on this Ezreal is the big threat. Ezreal's pretty good at that, but you do have to set up his conditions. He needs a long time. He's not as explosive as other AD carries. When you do pop off, you do tend to look a little bit like BLG's life.
And that's every champ Kenji has played this split. Banned out now, I believe. I think
I'm
that's
sensing a
every
bit of a
champ
pattern.
played. Yeah.
That is,
So hopefully is a fourth champ. I'm sure he does.
Rory be the stats, man. Absolutely. We got
Hopefully
him.
Rob's been cooking with his top
For the
laner.
record, 90% of the time it was Aurora, so the stats were really easy.
Yeah.
As we're seeing, an Ari Hobbit here would break the flex coming through from the Seraphine, so we know it's going to be that Ezreal Seraphine bot lane, unless we're seeing an insane Ezreal top pick.
Since there isn't like a big hyper carry out for Ruddy, I'm not really sure what the
Camille?
Ari's for. She's like very flexible.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess like when I'm looking at Paragon's draft, all they need to round this out is a tank, so they're pretty comfortable counterpicking that top side and kind of letting things go even. But that's gonna throw a wrench in things for sure. That's gonna be a lot of damage on Ruddy's side.
But
yeah,
three champions from Paragon outrange Vigar. This is going to be really hard.
Oh,
Yeah.
they do, but they've got to come get him. The
That's
Zinzao
fair.
and Ari
Yeah,
have
that's fair.
limited
And Bro can just chill
applications.
for 40 minutes, like then one shot everybody with his R.
Yeah, I think the Ezreal is not under a lot of pressure. Sorry, the Veigar is not under a lot of pressure. It deals with the Ezreal, like you've said. Damage chases through generally. Paragon have got a few ways. Like Ari can give Veigar issues when you start to apply pressure and you force the cage and you play on this defenseless mage. I think Errol's going to have enough stuff in front of him. He won't necessarily need to bring out the tank items early on, and even if he does, it'll still be enough. And managing that front line will be doable now.
I'm thinking if this is just an Ornn pick, like quite low mobility on the side of Ruddy. Has a kind of rough matchup into Renekton.
Malphite, okay.
Malphite, yeah, okay.
I mean,
it's
similar
coming.
stats to what I was explaining. Like, yeah, Caitlyn, pretty limited mobility. Vigar has no mobility. Unless you're seeing some Rocket Belt Dead Man's tech come out, which we might. I mean, not Rocket Belt, but more Dead Man.
Maybe.
Dead Man's Vigar is definitely a thing. As Paragon, yes, setting themselves up for quite a nice front-to-back comp here.
I mean, the team fight is ridiculous, right? Like, a bit of a dodge this team composition, right? The flash Malphite ult into the Seraphine on top, you cannot move, and then Xin Zhao dashing in as well. Add an Ahri on top, why not? Ezreal can kind of do his own thing, deal with the Leona, Renekton, Skarner kind of self-peel, right? I feel like the team fight does, like, in theory, look good for Paragon, but I think you mentioned it and kind of hit the nail on the head earlier, Temporal, with you have to get to Veigar.
You do.
You have a Malphite now.
You
do
have to
get
shut
Veigar.
off Ruddy's ability to do damage. And Caitlyn's not going to be like an omnipresent kill everything. Ezreal evades it nicely in lane. I think I'll give Paragon this. With the Malphite break at the end, if they do get it through the lane, picking someone off if Ruddy try and do this too fast and don't go through the steps, pushing the lane, making Paragon suffer for it, and then pushing forwards with what should be a stronger team comp. Paragon have the ability to snatch it back nice and quickly.
Yeah.
So no pressure late on a Monday night.
Definitely none. And I mean, that does kind of allude to, maybe Paragon kind of winning the draft here. I think it's very, very close. And I feel like when we were talking about Ruddy for the whole season, this team has been the most controlled I've ever seen them. Obviously, that's not saying much considering it's Ruddy, but this team has done very well to play pretty clinical, I feel like, this season, and picking stuff like Caitlyn Veigar where you can kind of just wait till later, and then Skarner, Leona, Rex, and just kind of become stat meatballs. It can be pretty easy to execute later on, but I think it is going to be difficult with all of this pick potential for the side of Paragon's draft. I don't know how you're feeling, Roy.
The thing, when you're saying pick potential, it's very high cooldown picks. Like, apart from an Ari charm, which, let's face it, she's usually spirit rushing into hit, it's all very long cooldowns, like the Seraphine ult, the Malphite ult. Malphite ult also puts you in a shocking position if you whiff it. So it's really... The execution is so important for Paragon, because if any of them whiff, Ruddy can just walk in, and there are no answers to this Skarner, to this Renekton if he manages to get onto your backline.
It's definitely true, and I mean, I did mention, you know, Self-Peel kind of being available for the Ezreal, kind of being available for the Ahri, but if Seraphine's that one who just gets caught by a Veigar cage and gets deleted, the team does kind of fall apart, so it's going to be interesting to see it play out and, you know, see these two styles clash. Obviously, we're in a series, which is what I'm so excited about, right? So no matter who wins this first game, we have a little bit more to play out. We have a little bit more to see from Paragon or Ruddy, depending on who ends up losing or winning. So it's going to be interesting to see it play out. Do we have any predictions from you guys, Temporal, moving, you know, away from that draft and looking towards the game?
I still think it's going to be Ruddy 2-0.
Really?
Paragon are probably going to give us the fright of our life, though. I think it's it's going to be close in-game.
Fair enough. I mean, what are you thinking, Roy? Do you think they're going to win it?
Now, the thing is about Malphite is
about the rock.
about the big rock dude.
About the rock.
A lot of top laners go, this is a great Malphite angle.
Yeah.
They do not really know how to play Malphite. And that sounds absurd because he's half a point and click champion.
Yeah.
But a lot of inexperienced people who are inexperienced on the champion lock him in because they say this is a great angle and then get absolutely curb stomped in lane because they don't know the trading patterns very well. So I really hope Kenji is practiced on this champion. Otherwise, Akaz is going to get a shockingly big lead and then a Renekton cannot be answered here. So I'm trusting Kenji's verse on the champion. I'm saying Paragon get this win.
I mean, that's definitely a lot of trust when you mentioned that Kenji's entire champ pool was gone.
Kenji's experienced on Malphite. We've had it before. It is pretty good. I will counter with it. Sometimes all you gotta do is push R. 50 CS, like, so what, buddy? Like, that's a really nice Caulfield's hammer there. I'm gonna go win the game now.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see. Definitely at some point, you know, Sin on this Caitlyn is going to be not as useful. And then it's kind of just going to be the kill Veigar game.
It's not as good directly, but if we do a little bit of a world tour, we get 15 plates in.
Yeah.
Tough one.
It'll have to be a case of letting it play out. So we'll be back, everyone, after a really short break where the casters will take you into the game and, well, we'll see what happens. Thank you so much and see you in a minute.
Okay. Alrighty, we are back and we are in after a small break. We are going to head off with the first game of Ruddy Esports versus Paragon. My name is Joy K. I'm being joined by Black Bloxer, and we are about ready to head into this game.
Yeah, very exciting. I mean, these two teams, they've had very different roads to get here. The desk was laying it out very nicely for us. You know, Ruddy, top of their group pretty easily. Paragon, despite being second in their group, was still 4-4. You know, it wasn't the easiest time at all. Their group felt a little bit harder overall. I think third, actually, rather than second. But still very different journeys to get here. Still both in the upper bracket, so they've got a loss if they need it. Both are obviously going to want to be getting a win here today and moving on and keeping themselves in the upper bracket. You know, you want as many chances as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's always nice to have that comfort of coming from the upper bracket, as you mentioned. But I mean, we've talked a little bit about the predictions of the desk earlier on the desk. What are your predictions?
I think, unfortunately, Ruddy's going to take it probably 2-0, but I would really like to see 3 games out of these teams, and honestly, I'd really like to see Paragon trust a little bit more. This team has so many great players that we've talked about so much over the last couple of years, and it'd be really exciting to see them take this one, but Ruddy, they've just looked better. Their team fighting is so incredibly strong. They've also had just an insane amount of just proactivity in all of their games that has been making it really difficult for teams to actually manage to play into them. The only loss they had to Vertex, it still didn't look terrible out of Ruddy. It almost felt kind of like we're trolling on that one a bit on terms of what they'd picked up, the way that they played it out, but still, it was a bit of a fight for Vertex to be able to get there, so I think Ruddy's going to take it, but, you know, I'd love to be here for a while to have it be a really good fight between the two.
Yeah, absolutely. So far, not a lot happening. I say that as Jamsu goes forward with the E. Clean's already committed here as well from last bit. So far, still good. Sin not quite able to put down the trap there on top of that E, but yeah. Otherwise, lane's looking pretty even here.
Yeah, nothing too explosive. We heard from the desk as well the questions of, hey, how good are we gonna get to see Kenji play on this? Malphite has a pretty good competitive record, so I'm not going to be too worried overall, but it is certainly true that if Act can get too far ahead, that could be scary. Errol, great dodge, should live here. Oh, wait, doesn't the flash? Wow, okay.
Okay, yeah, didn't expect that. Now, Christ is coming back around, trying to grab him back into that tower range, but Snepic's not having none of that. Walks right out of here.
Oh, I was not expecting the death right there. I don't think the error was either. Dies with the flash up, was able to use the fancy feet to be able to dodge away from the charm, but between a Xin Zhao and an Ahri this early on, you just do more than enough damage. Snipek's now going to get bullied off of these wolves.
Yeah, Jamsu there to back up. Timatoper though, on the rotation. Christ is already so extremely low, but will be managing to pick up Snipex on the way out here. Can he escape the Ahri though? He cannot. And that is going to be 2 kills on the Ahri this early on into the game. Not really ideal for Errol here.
No, absolutely not. Getting so many kills over to this Ahri. Hasn't been able to go back to base yet, so isn't able to cash in all of that gold right now. It's just sat on it. Oh, that's going to be landed.
Yeah, we're just going to keep going. As we do see heal being used here as well on Sack. Yeah, I'm doing a little bit of a hard spot here. Sin still doing all the damage he can. Has to be mindful though of the Jarvan that has just arrived through the bushes here. Jamsu. Flash already committed. Think he will die. Just buying some time and space here for the Caitlyn to back off. But will pay with his life.
I mean, it was a decent bit of, you know, wasting of time at least, but still, we're going to see a replay here of this kill that happened. Errol doesn't flash for this entire thing, doesn't expect the aggressive flash forwards out of Snipek, clearly should have. Even had Crisis in the area, and then this play, it's just a good way of attempting to extend the kill. You know roughly where the Xin Zhao is going to be, but you don't manage to pick up that kill initially, and it does go for a 1-for-1 here, but like we said, it's the 2 kills over to the Ahri that's really important. Timatoba has been one of those key contributors to this team, and so giving him 2 early kills is going to be huge for their attempt at continued success.
Oh my, and we come back just in time to see Crisis scootering right under that tower to pick up that kill here onto Timatoper.
Oh, we can
Which
see it
will
coming
be
from a
going into
mile
the
off,
Vagar.
but yeah, that sucks. That's the 2 kills going over, and you're not even able to get back to base and spend all of that gold and use that advantage you've accrued by the point at which you end up dying. Timatopa obviously does have the teleport to get back into lane, so it's not going to be the end of the world. You don't lose that much of the advantage, but still, it is a kill back going over to Errol. Buys the Dark Seal as well, so it's clearly thinking that that death was going to be a one-off, not going to be dying too much more often. We have got the first Drake available. Next set of grubs will be spawning very soon as well. Interesting to see where these junglers decide to go. Another bit of focus onto the mid lane.
Yeah, Charm goes wide, so does the Edo. Jamsu actually still sitting strong on that level 2. Timatoper at level 6, so maybe a bit too easy of a target, even though you are a Leona.
Has less health than the Ari.
Yeah,
now
exactly.
got the level 3. Now got the level 3, so is at least going to be in a slightly stronger position. You're so right to point that out, though. That's just a ridiculous level deficit for Jamsu, getting jumped right here by Snipex.
Yeah, who's again quite a bit higher. Now, we do see that Sak and Timatoper rotating over to these grubs as well. But Akkers will be arriving as well. Kenji on the heels decides to go against it though. Rotates back, so call for Paragon to back off here.
Yeah, interesting. I was expecting the fight to break out right there. Kenji obviously has the ult, and that looked like a pretty good unstoppable force angle, if I might say so myself. Everybody was stood right on top of each other, right on top of those grubs. But no, the decision comes just back out. I can understand it from Paragon. They've got themselves a decent enough earlier game. They're not ahead in gold, but it's pretty much even. They don't need to throw it away around a grubs fight where you might not be able to pick yourself up a couple of kills, and you also don't have a lot of your damage, which is the Ezreal right here. You know, everybody else does some decent stuff at the moment, but the Ezreal is going to be a big part of that teamfight damage. He's obviously still in the bot lane, they're still farming up, no need to throw things away right now. But the rotation doesn't come through immediately out of Snipex to come and pick up this Drake. Might be able to try for it right now, but if not, if you lose the first set of grubs and the first Drake, that feels pretty bad. That's a bad set of rotations out of your jungler, and you really don't want to be giving too many of these neutral objectives away. It looks like Snipex is going to head over to this Drake, though, and there isn't really a response right here out of Crisis.
Yeah, I mean, Crisis will be spotted on that ward, though, that Timatoper just put down in this rotation. So Snipex, they will be, be able to pick up this Drake pretty much for free. Timatoper, though, rotating over.
Crisis can go in.
Still can.
Doesn't.
But will not be contesting.
Doesn't decide to. I think that's the right decision overall. I think it would have been probably the wrong shout to have gone in right there, potentially given away, a ton of your advantage, a ton of what you've been able to build for yourself up so far. Doesn't decide to go in, and yeah, that's just the normal trades. 3 grubs, 1 Drake, not going to be the end of the world. Obviously, it is really good to get an individual Hextech Drake, probably the best one to get individually. But still, this early game has been pretty explosive overall. 5 kills, just 8.5 minutes in. And it really is Timatoper who's come out on top. Still, though, isn't particularly ahead in terms of items, in terms of levels right now. In fact, is behind in levels. So it'll be really interesting to see if Timatoper's actually going to be able to use that early advantage that he was given through those early kills.
Yeah, so far they're still playing it pretty safe. Letting the wave come in all the way. Even though Snipex definitely showing around that top lane, and now eyes on Akkers, he's pretty far pushed in. Snipex in the area.
Oh, Jamsu
is there, but now we see Jamsu arriving here to the scene as well. Will be stunned up, rooted up. Great charm to connect Spirit Rush forward here from Timatoper. Now it's actually Crisis arriving. The ultimate connects. Ace in the hole will not finish the job. Timatoper on the Ari actually gets the lift. The dominance already coming out here from Akkers. Trying to escape here and get under to that tower. Will not manage to do so.
Oh, disaster.
As he will fall in the end.
It's an active play out of Ruddy in the mid lane that goes askew, and top lane Akkers ends up giving his life over, and Paragon, they're looking really, really good throughout this early game. Still, the gold is even, but stopping that play in the mid lane is going to be huge. And again, Jamsu, level 4 throughout that play, just so far behind in terms of levels that so squishy, so squishy. Timatoper didn't even manage to land that many actual abilities. It was mainly auto-attack damage out of the Ari right here that was able to do so much to this very squishy Leona. More fighting, okay.
Absolutely. More fighting. There we do see the Ezreal ulti connecting as well. Jamsu is here though. Oh, beautiful
Oh
follow-up
my.
onto the cage, but Snapback somehow
flash!
still living!
The flash. They're gonna get 2.
Oh my. The Encore connects. E-roll though.
Oh, Errol missed.
Oh my god.
Oh. No, no, no. There were so many slow health bars right there. Errol just about missed out on one of the baleful strikes. But before that, it looks like Crisis is dead here. Absolutely dead. It's going to be a good land on the Ezreal as well for that extra little bit of damage. And then you're stunned up too, but unfortunately Errol manages to get in, puts down the baby cage, and Crisis just about able to survive. Sack would be dead here, but look, one Q doesn't land on the flash.
Oh.
Just misses. Yep, just misses. So close. Landing that would have been another kill over, but still, again, Paragon, they're able to turn a play on its head and pick up a couple of kills. You can really tell that both of these teams are incredibly bloodthirsty.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've pretty much just seen fighting coming out here. If anything, top lane has looked a little bit quiet, but with these second pair of grubs spawning now, I think we might just start seeing a change in that. The charm coming down here onto Crisis. The cage doesn't really find anything. Jamsu in the middle of everybody, just trying to find anything, but the Unstoppable Force will connect, as well as the Skarner ulti. Jamsu is the first one to fall, though. Picked up by Kenji. Now Kenji's so extremely low. Eero will pick them up right off the back of that, and there's a shutdown going over to the Veigar. Now Grub still up and available for grabs here.
And that's going to be a couple of kills being picked up right here. Ruddy, they're also going to get these grubs. Should be on 5 once they finish off this last one. Indeed, they are. So they are going to be in a good position when it comes to pushing onto these towers. Lasps never comes and joins this fight. Does get a couple of turret plates back. So that is going to be huge. And this team fight was super messy, super split. You can see Akaz and Kenji fighting up towards the top side. Then we get the Unstoppable coming in. It does land onto 2 members. 2 key members. Very important for picking up the Jamsu kill that they do get. But then Akaz is in a super strong position, able to just keep on fighting alongside Errol, who never really gets attacked during that fight. And so it ends pretty evenly overall, but the grubs are going to be the big thing. Ruddy, they've managed to find themselves a little bit of a lead. It's barely a lead in terms of gold, just under 1,000, but that grub lead should be pretty huge. Of course, as we spoke about just before that fight happened, Lasp was picking up turret plating, so should be in a pretty good spot when it comes to gold. Now needs to base pick up that first item, as we do see first items completed pretty much across the board.
Yes, that we do indeed. Malignance now as well for the Ahri. We'll be starting to put some work in. Looks like maybe we're looking at a little bit more action around this mid lane, but things are coming out towards the dragon. Crisis though doesn't quite connect on to the Xin Zhao here. We'll be backing off.
No TPs on the top laner, so they're not going to be able to come and join in onto this one. It's going to be a 4v4.
Alright. Oh, Ezreal still stunned here though by the cage, but in the bush.
Oh, he steals it!
Oh my,
Snapix.
what a steal! Absolutely fantastic steal coming out here from Snapix. And actually with the flash, does he manage to live? No way. No way, Jose. He is out of there. Sin trying to do as much damage as he can. The ace in the hole is available, but he knows it's not quite low enough to connect the kill. No, Timotopino comes over the wall. Back and forth with the Spirit Rush. Does manage to even pick up that Caitlyn. No ace in the hole available. So now all those low health bars, they just get to live. That was cocky.
That was cocky, but it works out. It works out
for them.
Yeah, Sniffex gonna step forwards right here. And I guess sees blood in the water, and it's just unfortunate that you really don't want to step up all the way into an Ezreal, into an Ahri. You know, stepping up too far is going to be scary, so you don't buy enough space. It allows Sniffex to be able to step in, pick up that steal, then gets taken out, although lives for a surprisingly long time. I am surprised that Sniffex does flash, but it at least pulls Crisis away, and it gives enough time for the remaining members of Paragon to try for a fight. Now, this is just crazy talk, Ala Timatopa.
Yeah. Double hits that E, the Foxfire over the wall, and then the charm to end it. Just absolutely trusting in your abilities here to land all your stuff on Ahri. In the meantime, Rift Herald has gone over here to Ruddy. Pretty much uncontested. Mid tower. Looking like it will fall now, yeah.
Yep, there we go. Gonna be a mid lane going down. It is 2 Drakes over 2 Paragon alongside that kill lead. They're down in terms of gold because Ruddy have been able to pick themselves up a lot of towers, and this is kind of what you have to do on the Caitlyn. You need to just eat turret plates around you as much as possible. It's actually been a pretty good look out of Sin so far in terms of that. At the same time, though, you've got some very heavy scaling build right here out of Errol. Not looking to deal all of the damage right now, but soon enough, you know, that row is going to come online, that Dark Seal maybe turns into a Medjay's, and at that point, you start absolutely rolling as this Veigar, obviously getting the stacks as well, making you into an absolute terror on the Rift. So we'll see at what point Ruddy's really able to get this composition truly online. They're not in a bad position, but at the same time, that Malignance is a really big power spike for Timotopia right now. Once you get yourself that Trinity Force, that's huge for the Ezreal, so you're in a good spot as Paragon to fight.
Yeah, exactly. And that is they're not afraid to look for that fight. Now, Cage goes down on not connecting, really. But still, with a wave under tower, looks like Errol wants to kind of see what they can do. But there's so much vision here around this bottom side of the river that it is hard to set up any sort of surprises for them.
No, it feels like Paragon, they know what's happening. They still have to concede this tower, though. It's going to be another tower going over to Sin. You get a little bit of a push forward in the mid lane, at least get the teleport out of Errol, but still, it is going to be a further bit of gold going to Ruddy, expanding out that gold lead for themselves, 1.5k at the moment. And these mid laners, they've got a lot of kills right now, but haven't been able to quite show us that pop-off performance yet. Obviously, we had that very cool play out of Timotopia, but need to see a little bit more out of this Ahri to really justify the pickup. Has got a Haunted Guys in inventory, so dealing a good amount of damage at the moment. And we haven't yet seen a real true 5v5 team fight. I could see it happening at this next Drake, obviously. Paragon picking themselves up Soul Point already, just, what would that be, 18.5 minutes into the game would be huge. It would allow them to dictate the tempo of this game pretty easily, so you do want to stop that as Ruddy. They were trying to stop them from even getting that second one earlier on, obviously had it stolen away by Snipex, so you need to see Ruddy set up a little bit stronger for their team fighting. Gotta mention though, that is 2 needlessly large rods in Errol's inventory, so very soon gonna be that death cap completed. Absolutely huge damage spike, and I think that's the point at which you're very much scared of Errol of what this Veigar can do. Don't think that one's going to be completed by the point at which this Drake spawns, though. So we do have to keep our eyes on that.
Yes, definitely something to keep your eyes on. I mean, we do say, like, we have to give it to Errol, though. His positioning in these team fights has been so phenomenal. Staying alive and pretty much uncontested on these grub fights that we saw previously. So if they just manage to keep spacing themselves around like this, then this Veigar is going to be so extremely scary, because like the desk also mentioned, the only way you can get onto this Veigar will have to be your Malphite.
Absolutely, and we haven't seen the Malphite really get involved properly in a fight, 5v5, not yet. The top laners, they are going a little bit toe-to-toe right now, but the Drake has spawned, and both of them do have themselves that teleport. It's going to be Ruddy first to the Drake. There is a response, though, out of Paragon.
Yeah, Paragon slowly starting to make their way. Not much happening so far. We do see that TP has been used here. Kenji has made his way. Now, we do see Akers teleporting in as well. Drake is starting to follow. Stun coming out here onto Snipex, but still manages to smite that away. No. Ocean Drake now taken down as well. Sin has nowhere to run as he's got everyone on his ass. Will fall last but to follow, though. But that is, by the looks of it, the only thing that Akers is going to be able to pick up after TPing in. Fantastic fight here for Paragon.
Truly excellent fight. We're going to watch it back straight away. And the things to keep your eye on is, first of all, the fact that Snipex is able to go and get this steal again. Wizardry to be able to do this twice. But it's the layering here between Kenji's ult and I think possibly more importantly, Last's fault. Last managed to hit just a brilliant charm. Manages to go through 3-4 of the members, and then you just turn the ties, go and pick up the fight. Errol dies. You manage to get another kill right here onto Jamsu. Akers picks up 2 on the back end of this fight. Sack steps up despite the fact that he was not needed in that fight. It's always tricky. You never want to walk away. Snipex was getting pretty close to death. But still, 2 kills towards Akers is nowhere near as impactful as the fact you get yourself an ace over on Ruddy's side. On Paragon's side, and they managed to pick themselves up that 3rd Drake. They're running away with it, and this is terrifying for Ruddy right here, because Ruddy's team fighting has been easily one of their best factors. You know, the laning's been pretty good, but you get Ruddy in a team fight, and they can pop off. They can really take you to task. Well, Paragon, they just showed that they can go toe-to-toe, and really played that one out incredibly well. Snipex cannot keep getting away with this. He got jumped. Clearly, Ruddy were worried about him stealing it again, but he just lived.
Yeah, exactly. And now we do see Sin on the run already. Jumps are trying to peel away. Will get caught and fall. And Timotopper just picking up kills here, back and forth.
Can they go for a Baron right here? I think it would be incredibly risky to do so. There's still 4 members alive, but without Jamsu, that's a ton of your engage potential just missing. You know, that's a lot of your team fighting not there anymore. Still, instead, they're going to go towards this mid lane tier 1 tower, pick that one up for themselves, establish good vision control around the Baron at least. They've got themselves another 3 minutes until they need to start worrying about playing around that Drake, and even then, Paragon don't even necessarily need to worry about the Drake, because they've got 3 already. What's giving away 1? What's giving away 2? It's only once you get to that sort of 5th Drake, 6th Drake, Sack's to dead. There's... You die there, unfortunately. That was a good ult. It was a good catch. And that will certainly delay anything Paragon were wanting to do for themselves. And, you know, Ruddy, they're not going to roll over and die. They're never just going to allow a game to happen to them. Even when they are a bit behind, they're still pretty even in gold.
Yeah, that they are indeed. And it looks like they might have found another catch here. But the Unstoppable Force will get Kenji out. And to the safety of his tower for now, at least. On a ward, though. Christ is still looking, but... Looks
Genji
like not much
up.
will be found.
Genji knows that something is wrong and does not want to step up right here. Aka's gonna have to try save this tower. I don't think that the Crocodile's gonna be able to pick up the kill onto an Ahri right now. Oh, and into a pause we go.
Alrighty. Little bit of a pause coming out.
Hope it's going to be a nice quick one for us. Obviously, don't want to be sitting in a pause for too long, but it is a relatively opportune time for the game to go to a pause. 22 minutes in, 3 Drakes have already gone down, and this is a good place to be able to stop, take stock of the game, because right now, you can see on the minimap, we've got a big push happening out of left in the mid lane, doing a lot of damage to this tier 2 tower there. Same thing happening right here with Timotopper. We are going to get back into game, got a good push going on in this bottom lane. Isn't going to be able to pick up the tower, but still does about half health to that objective. And I think Paragon, they've just got a little bit better map rotation at the moment. Ruddy the no slouch as they picked up that top lane tier 1 tower. They were able to threaten pretty heavily onto Kenji, but you know, they have been able to keep themselves within touching distance of this game, despite the fact they are down 5 kills. That's usually indicative of a pretty big gold deficit too. Not been the case so far.
Yeah, I mean, Ruddy, we all believed that they would be having the upper hand here, and right now, this is really not what we are seeing. Where I'm a little bit confused with how this has happened, but I feel like, you know, the way that they've spiraled this, Ahri out of control, 7-1 now.
Yeah.
2 items completed. Yeah, I mean, it's you go ahead.
I think it's worth looking at the kill participation right here, because the Ahri has been a part of 12 of the 14 kills, and the Xin Zhao's been a part of 13 of the 14 kills. These two have been absolutely everywhere. Sack as well, 11 of the 14. Now, these 3 have been everywhere. Last, Kenji, they've been allowed to stay in their lanes, do what they need to do to pick up farm, not fall behind, grab tower plates, grab towers, whatever they need. But this 3-man combo between the jungle, mid, and support has been incredibly strong right here out of Paragon. Specifically, mid-jungle duo has just been all over the map, and that's really been a key contributor as to why this team is looking as strong as they are right now. We are only 15 seconds away from this next Drake spawning, though. Kenji is going back to base, does have the teleport available to come join the team. Akers is already here, and we have mainly key ultimates up. Flash is just arriving back for Crisis as well. Teleport comes in.
Yeah, teleport does come in. It's Kenji, Akers, looking to still pick up this wave here, as we do see actually Timotopper has to reset, has a TP available as well to them. Ackers finds Snapix. Okay. So far, just a little bit of damage being traded back and forth, though. We do see Crisis now looking for the engage here. The stun comes down, though, onto Kenji. Timotopper is not there. Is arriving just now, but I think it will not matter. Kenji is already gone. They will manage to pick up a counter kill here now. Sindo under a lot of pressure of that Timotopper, but Snapix is just gone. Their jungle gone, meaning that, you know, no more smites available. And now we do see that the call from Ruddy is also to try and retreat for that Drake. But my goodness, Akker's just not had enough yet. Crisis, though, will be able to pick that one up off the back of that. And Ruddy really showing their fangs here and why, as you said, they are so good at these team fights.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, honestly, that was a big mistake out of Paragon. They get a good amount of damage right here onto Akkers. They can potentially go for a stop right now. Obviously, picking up this Drake would be huge. Jamsu is on the way, though, and it will be a 2v4. Gotta back off. Give up this Drake. The soul point is stopped. And I've got to put a lot of blame right here onto Paragon. You know, this is a good recognition out of Ruddy to know that they can go for this play. Sure. But Timotopper's not here. He's not able to get involved at the point at which the rest of this fighting is really happening. Kenji's dead at the point at which you end up seeing that Encore come through. That charm into the Malphite ulti is the big combo you're looking for that allows pretty, you know, bitty damage dealers like an Ahri, like an Ezreal to really be able to shine. They struggle very hard at just sitting there and hitting someone for a while. They need space, they need time to be able to land their combos, land their damage. That jump forward out last, I don't know what he was thinking there. He loses both his flash and his cleanse to the play, and they still don't manage to pick themselves up the Drake. And all of that comes from the fact that Timotopper took half health of damage early on, had to go and take a reset, and then was late to the rest of the fight.
Errol, the unstoppable force, really nice Lunar Flare coming out here though. Snapix, Champs are doing an insane amount of peeling here. Zac though still managing to keep themselves alive. Errol just trying to pick up a counter kill desperately to get something out of this overextended position.
Wow, okay, they do manage to pick up the kill onto Errol. That one felt a little bit risky. That is all of the stacks on that Dark Seal now gone for Errol, so that's pretty big that you no longer have any of that. Timotopper has also managed to go back to base
and we're just gonna keep fighting, so I'm just gonna keep talking because off the back of that, they pick up last bit. Sindo in a little bit of a tricky situation with Snapix right onto his feet, and he's just trying to get away, but has to use his flash in the last fight still, though, with the fleet footwork managing to sustain a little bit back here on the wave. Has that ace in the hole to do quite a bit of damage here onto Zac, and now there's still 3 frontliners here fighting on to Kenji. Kenji trying to walk away.
Oh, the charm!
Beautiful charm coming out here. The Encore is massive, though, so it manages to almost turn everything around here for Paragon. But now with Errol arriving full HP, the call is to back off on the side of Paragon.
That's the kind of team fight that you want. That very end bit is very much what Paragon want from these fights. Long, extended fight, whereas the Ahri you get to just throw a Q. Throw a Q. Throw a Q. Throw a Q. Just keep going. And eventually, you're going to kill people. You're not that good at bursting people down 100-0. Obviously, the build is built towards being able to eviscerate someone, but still, you're not a Veigar. You're not going to be able to just point and click, kill somebody all at once, unless you hit a full combo onto the squishiest member available. Very rare that that's going to be happening. But instead, was able to just about get all of those kills down. Kenji did not have the ulti for that entire fight. If Kenji did have the ulti up at any point there, I think that would have been a massive turn for Paragon. Instead, they're just able to pick themselves a couple of kills from it. It's good fight for them overall, despite the fact they did end up losing Snipex in what was, I'm going to say it right now, a bit of an over-aggressive play. Went into the back line in amongst 4 members when the rest of the team really wasn't there to respond. Still, though, 2 minutes until we get the next Drake. Baron has been up for a good while at this point, and nobody's really been interested in going for it. Paragon, though, looking to hunt again. The charm goes wide, and that should spell the end of this little play right here. Instead, you kind of want to just start getting yourself vision around this objective before you go back, spend your last gold, and hope for a better fight this time, and to pick up the soul for Paragon.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, at this point, that is what they would like to do to just kind of get a win condition, but so far
Can't
looks
do it,
like
though.
they're still hanging around this dragon pit, trying to see if they can maybe catch the Skarner off guard with a charm, but
If you
nothing
do, if you
happening.
do catch Crisis, that's a Baron. So I
Yeah.
get why they're looking for it, but now it looks like they're actually going to go push out these waves, take their resets, spend whatever last little bits of gold that you have left. Otherwise, if you've got no big items, push the waves out and get ready to fight. I'd be very surprised if we don't see a full 5v5 right here. There's always a chance, potentially, that Ruddy opts out of it, goes for Baron, tries to take that one down. They've got a pretty quick Baron if they want it.
That they do. Looks like right now they are setting their eyes on to this tier 2 tower. Will be gone in a matter of seconds. Now the split around here.
Kenji's on the
In.
back line.
Yeah. Cage goes wide, doesn't really get anything. Now Skarner starting to fall incredibly low though. Finds the impale onto Snepix, but Snepix is like, thank you, that is exactly
so
what I
good.
needed to get a little bit closer. And now Sin is just gone like that as well. The Cage will manage to keep them at bay for a little while, but not long enough for Iro to put in any other meaningful damage. So it's just Jamsu walking away from the fight here.
I've seen enough. Sack MVP for this game. Those encores have been gorgeous, landing multiple charms onto key members and being able to buy enough time, enough space for that combo alongside the Unstoppable to come on in. Is going to be the dragon turned onto right here. Crisis is dead, right? You don't really have a way of contesting this one. They do have a couple of members in the area. Potentially, if you didn't see Snipex trying to take down this Drake as well, you could try for a steal. Not going to happen. Instead, it is going to be everybody from Ruddy backing off. And they are going to get themselves the Soul Point Ocean Soul right now. And Ocean Soul is brilliant, especially on this Malphite. Just going to be so tricky to kill. But also, if you do want to send the Ari on the split push, going to make that a little bit easier. It's not necessarily the best team composition to make use of an Ocean Drake, but you're always going to be happy to have it. And to take it away from a composition that does use it incredibly well with a Renekton, with a Skarner, is going to feel great for Paragon here in this game 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, everybody has taken their time to take a reset and okay.
It's chip damage,
I'm gonna
right?
hold my breath. I'm just always thinking, like, you know, there is gonna come a moment where I'm like not fully aware, and then there's a fight once again. So I held my breath there for a second, thinking like maybe they're gonna look for something crazy here, but
Ruddy
no.
are like that. Ruddy does that to a person. You'll be thinking, it's fine, it's fine. Oh, they've got an ace. I mean, this is big. Paragon going for Baron.
Yeah. They are looking to start up the Baron here, and Vision will be taken away. TP coming out here as well. And they're just really doing scratch damage here onto Kenji at this point, but now Crisis looking to make his way in. Akers though completely on the other side. Snepix will take that one. Try to put a bit of damage onto him. Charm goes wide. Lunar Flare will connect, but no meaningful CC to follow it.
Oh, it misses. The Impale misses.
The Impale does not connect, and that could have been, now that Kenji actually started to look low, that could have been a very meaningful CC to connect here, but now we find the Unstoppable Force here onto Akers. Akers though, still standing, all the CC going in. There is again the Encore coming out, connecting. Can Sack ever miss any of these? It just doesn't look like it. But now Snapix may have overstayed his welcome all the way up alone, up in the front again. Does fall, and that will mean no Baron most likely here, but now still on the chase is Paragon, because man, Ruddy is looking so extremely low.
They just can't finish the kills right here as Paragon, though. So many blinking health bars, but they cannot finish it off.
Oh,
I don't think that's enough damage. No, Lilia is going to be tanky enough, and the prize is simply just going to have to be a stolen blue buff and a secured Scotter Crab right here. It's Paragon who end up losing the singular member in that long, extended, bloody team fight. And the reason that they didn't pick up a kill feels like a missed charm right there out of Timatopa. You decide after the team fight sort of fizzles, Timatopa should be able to walk this one out. Kenji goes in with the Unstoppable onto Akers, but the charm misses, and so Akers is just able to survive.
Oh. But yeah, now they're looking for Kenji. They know he doesn't have... Oh, he actually does still have that Unstoppable Force. They're just looking to lock him down, but the Unstoppable Force will get him out. The charm goes out onto Jamsu.
Jamsu?
Falling very low. The ticks. It's not going to be enough, and Sin will actually be managing to pick up a kill here on to last bit on the backline.
They just don't have enough damage, Paragon. They're so close every time to picking up all of these kills, to these team fights being absolute domination wipes, but it's not every single time.
Oh. The charm though. Akers going in. I am not sure. Oh! Never mind! The Impale comes out to follow, and now Akers has a free playground, as he thinks, but will be falling. Alongside will be Kenji, though, on the menu now. Sin on the side, still contested. Poking away, manages to pick up the Xin Zhao here as well. 2 kills here to 1. Actually, 3 kills to 1 here, excuse me.
So they go
or the side of Ruddy. I mean, why not?
Yeah, low health bars, but there's not really any response. Sack and Timatopa have looked good. Lasp is now back up. Yeah, there is a wave pushing in. Potentially, you could go for a teleport play. There we go. We do get the teleport right here out of Timatopa. I think this is absolutely the right decision. The Baron's gone. You do not get the Baron in this play, but you can at least pick yourself up this turret. Not going to be able to pick up the inhibitor, but still, that's a good injection of gold and also opens up the map a little bit more for Paragon. But they do lose the Baron, and that's multiple fights in a row where they just can't quite finish off these kills. And honestly, as much as I think Sack MVP if you do end up winning this game for Paragon, if Ruddy win this game, it is Sterak's Gage the MVP, because every time that Paragon are about to get a kill, nope, there is a 3000 HP shield, and you don't get the kill, and then all of a sudden the healing comes through for the Renekton, or the Impale happens for Crisis. Really, this has been an incredibly strong item in this game. MVP material, definitely.
Yeah, and why would you even give it to a player when it's just one item that's doing the whole job?
Whose Dark Seal was that? Whose Dark Seal were we just looking at? Oh, top Kenji's got a Dark Seal?
Okay.
Ayo? Okay.
Ayo.
That's interesting. Ouch. Okay.
That hurt.
It hurts.
What?
Yeah. I mean, that is a 4-item Caitlyn.
Yeah.
Like,
that is
4-item Ezreal hits like a truck. 4-item Caitlyn hits like a plane. Just absolutely destroys whatever's in front of it. Be very surprised, though, if Sin's able to weave his way through a full team fight without getting jumped by Kenji, or maybe Timatopa can get into the backline. I think a big worry is okay. For now, we'll see. I think the big worry right now for Paragon is just that Snipex hasn't had good team fights recently. Hasn't been able to really stay alive anywhere near as long, despite having a Sterak's of his own. So I'm going to be eyes on Snipex in this next fight to see what he can do, because the steals have been on point, the rest of it has not.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of where it looked a bit disconnected, right? As we are seeing the Lunar Flare connecting here onto Genji.
He's good. He is
good. He is good. He's alive. No, the point I was making is that like Snipex has been incredible with the steals, but then we saw in this last like really extended team fight as well that all of a sudden he's just isolated alone on the backline. It's like he's just decided to chase on his own. And that hasn't really worked out, obviously.
No, it has not. All items are available. Most of the flashes too. This is obviously the Elder, so picking this one up pretty much guarantees the game.
Yeah, Kenji's looking for a different angle here on the flank, but now it looks like everybody is just trying to find some space around here. Snipex the target will be rooted up. Ulti will come out right away. Beautiful encore once again, though. Charm upon charm will be thrown in, but last bit gets grabbed, gets killed right away. To follow is Kenji by the looks of it, but Jamsu will fall first. And now Akers just trying to buy space here in this backline as that Renekton looking completely unstoppable.
And that is support for ADC as the trade, though. Ruddy going to be more than happy with that one, and they do turn back onto this Drake. The Unstoppable is still available. Kenji's still got plenty of health, but can you even get into the pit right here as Snipex? No, they're going to lose the Elder. It's gone.
Yeah, it is gone, and Akers actually manages to live off of that as well, so we'll be receiving that buff. Now they're looking for Snipex right away, and why wouldn't you? Because this is just a free kill for you to grab and pretty much secure yourself the game. And just like that, Ruddy's managed to turn it around.
They absolutely have. Let's see what they can do with this Elder buff right here. They haven't managed to crack open the base fully yet. Just in the mid lane is there, a little bit of a tower left. Not the full one at that. So we'll see what they can do. You can't really fight them as Paragon right now. It would take an absolute miracle to pull out a true fight that can pick you up a win right now. Crisis going in.
Oh my, the push into the
Okay.
cage, absolutely
boy.
no chance that you can do anything at all, but Kenji though is looking for that unstoppable force. A nice hourglass coming out though. Follow all this CC, and then you are just gone. It doesn't matter how tanky you are.
Yeah, it's much easier to kill a 6k health Malphite when you get to take a huge chunk of it off with that Elder. And Ruddy, they were behind for the majority of this game, but they just never let the gold gap expand too far. They were always fighting toe-for-toe in these team fights. Paragon, it feels like they made a couple of crucial mistakes right here that's going to cost them game one.
Oh yeah, and right again, as you say it, Snipex.
Was probably the strongest looking team. 7-1 in the groups, and they just don't let up. They team fight so effectively, they know your weaknesses, they know how to play this game out. The Starax genuinely were incredibly impactful multiple times where Akers was able to live in that situation, and it didn't matter that you had a couple of those Drakes stolen away, because the gold never really got going for Paragon. They never were really able to get themselves ahead. They were fighting really effectively at the point at which their champions were super strong at the 1 to 2 item point. But we got to 3, we got to 4 items, and at that point, you don't have the damage between an Ezreal and an Ahri. Neither of these are big, yeah, we're going to take down a tanky champion fighters. You're not able to do that. They never were quite able to get through that front line, and it meant that the back line of the Caitlyn was just able to sit and hit. Same with the Veigar. Once the game went as long as it did, it just felt like there was not quite enough that they could do.
No, absolutely. And we were kind of both suspicious to both of these drafts as they came out, but yeah, CC, it is really strong by the looks of it, and and it turns out that it can just win you games if you connect everything onto one person. Overall, a really, really entertaining first game in this best of 3, and we will soon be back with our second game, but we're going to throw to a little break first, so don't go anywhere.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the desk. What a game to start off this series. I mean, Paragon kind of had it in the bag for a second there. It looked like they might have been able to take it home, but, well, Ruddy, Ruddy brought it back in a couple of missteps. We saw what happened, so, I mean...
The best summary
Beyond
of a
words.
game is we were all aware of what went wrong in that game. We actually don't need an analyst to break this down.
I mean, it was cooked. That's all I can say. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't even know how I can elaborate further. It was, I mean, obviously, Ruddy definitely looked very weak at the beginning of that game. It looked like they were overstepping their bounds, and not the Ruddy that we saw for the entirety of the regular season. Very uncharacteristic play, I'd say. So Paragon did really well to capitalize on that, and you know, the mid laner looking incredibly good, Tim Topper, and I mean, we can kick it straight off to replays. I don't know if you're ready for that, Temporal.
I'm ready. Let's give the observers a chance to get it together, and here we go. So, early doors, Errol, fantastic mid laner, great showing game mini masters, really good. And Team Topper and Snepex, very aware that they want to cut this mid laner down to size, and so they will. Jumps into mid, and a classy flash from Snepex throws the dab from the penguin as well. Really does put a wrench in the early game for Ruddy, and that sort of explosive attack on what is normally a pretty stable champion that doesn't want to be involved in these fights, wants plenty of time to scale up, really did set Paragon on a bit of a snowball.
Yeah, and it set Ruddy what looked like on the back foot, right? Because something we didn't see right afterwards, right, was the fact that, you know, Ruddy didn't really take that into account, overstepped again, moved into enemy jungle, and then gave a pretty a further lead to Timatopper, right? So Paragon really started this one off with a bang, and actually I thought they were going to take it home. I'm going to be honest. Like, they looked very strong. I don't know how you were feeling, Roy, towards the
I think everyone thought Paragon was going to take it home, and I was going to feel like a really clever analyst for getting Paragon win game 1 right. Unfortunately, you know what? We'll save that for later, because I want to focus on actually a really important Drake fight for Timatopra. I believe that's where we're going now.
Yeah, like 19 minutes
this
in.
is around the second dragon, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Or third dragon. As we see a bit of posturing here, a bit of a face-off, doing really well. The TP is coming in. Kenji arrives from mid-wave. Snepex is able to get a smite steal off because both Errol and Sin damage the dragon with their piercing abilities. And then Timatopper can just dance in the front line, while Akis is in the back line being like, I've got the Ezreal, I've got the Seraphine, wait, it doesn't actually matter, everyone else is dead, why am I so alone? Manages to get the flash kill at the very end of the fight. But yeah, Snepex is super set up for success just from double smite stealing. It's such an ego advantage in the jungler. So he's feeling great. Timatopper is feeling awesome, being able to get into that backline. I think Sack landed a 4-man Seraphine ult there as well. So
yeah,
Paragon are in really high spirits at this point in the game.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the sole point as well, right?
Really powerful ones, and then the max range Q on the Ari, just to really hammer home how like doomed Errol is. It's fantastic play.
I mean, a lot of these fights were really scrappy though, right? Like that fight in particular didn't look super one-sided until, you know, after the dragon died and the steal came through, and then okay, now it's actually super winnable because Seraphine hit that 4-man ultimate. So it was super reliant on a couple of these like massive team fight ults, right? So I mean, we can talk about massive team fight ults moving forward as well. Temporal, if you want to walk us through this next replay where Sack pulled off another one.
Yeah, this was pretty big up in the north quadrant of the map, and this ult is just absolutely fantastic. So Ruddy barreling up mid, want to get this tier 2 down, easily managed to do so. Paragon going to come across the side, cut them off from a clean and easy exit. They are on red vision here, so we see Snepex come up to the front. Start to set off. Vagar Cage comes out. And, you know, start of backwards and forwards. Last Arcane shifting forwards. We'll keep an eye on that throughout the rest of the series. But overall, Kenji, Zach, able to set up here. Ruddy made vulnerable, scattered to the wind. They can't hide behind that Veigar cage. They can't have the setup with Caitlyn and Leona. This was a regular feature until, unfortunately, the Elder fight, where they weren't quite able to get the Wombo combo together later on. But great signs of life from Paragon, and this game was pretty close on them being proactive.
It really was.
I just want to jump in and say, in a few of these fights, Sin has been really having the world thrown at him, and he's just not able to outplay on a champion like Caitlyn. I mean, yeah, he was dying with his flash up, but honestly, looking back at that replay, there was no way he was living in that spot anyway, even if he flashes. And that kind of sucks, yeah, when your Skarner's going hard in, your Renekton wants access to the backline, your Leona's also diving, and then you're like, oh, right, I've got to deal with them outfight. Solid, okay, got it, guys, fine. You know what, Errol, do all the damage, I'm dead.
And that kind of was an issue that that Errol was going through as well, right? Like, obviously the Veigar was getting collapsed on left and right, and that was kind of how Paragon had the number already in the mid to later game fights, but it kind of fell apart, right? Once Paragon started getting a little bit overconfident, misstepping slightly on occasion, and it looked almost like chain dying, right? Like one person would die, and then maybe they'd wait, and then they'd respawn. They'd have 5 members again. They move into enemy jungle again, and then one person would die again, and they would just be at this permanent man disadvantage for the entirety of the rest of the game.
To be fair, the cupcakes on Caitlyn's traps do look really young. They look like real good.
Where's he going with that? Oh,
this is someone who can't eat cupcake. They looked really good. Like, solid. I can understand why we saw Ezreal so desperate to eat them and get caught like that. I'm just taking the mic here as we're getting into draft. Immediate Ash ban, not surprising. Similar bans from game 1 currently.
Yeah, and I was going to ask Temporal, do you have anything that you think Paragon need to shore up on, despite obviously maybe a couple of their mistakes in that later game, maybe moving towards draft here?
We're going to probably see an R3 Seraphine down here. I think Ready would like to not have to play into the Super Sona sound system once again. Is particularly a struggle for them.
For Ruddy, yeah.
I do remember the actual Super Sona sound system, which was Sona Seraphine bot lane from about 2 years ago, which was brutal. Paragon now got the Seraphine ban coming out. So no, both teams really acknowledging that this is a powerhouse R2 pick.
Okay.
And maybe, I mean, it's surprising that you wouldn't prioritize a B1, and the Corki is what you are prioritizing. Do you think that's going to be last picking that up in correlation to Sin playing that in the bot lane, Temporal, or do you think that's going mid?
I think we might have our teams slightly the wrong way around, but I did see that Paragon selected blue, so we're going to carry on. That is not based on anything. That is purely on the vibes. So maybe Paragon have decided they want to cosplay Ready this draft.
I mean, maybe they haven't, like you mentioned, the double last. I don't know what's going on in this draft. Lisa and Hover, that would be a bit insane. I feel like the answer, oh wow, it actually is Lisa. I mean, is this champion any good right now?
Snepex's a Lee Sin player. Crisis has played a reasonable amount of Lee Sin. The champion is not special at the moment. The target access, as always, is fantastic, but Jarvan's right there, bro.
Like, Poppy is still up as well. She's so strong in the current meta. Pairing Lee Sin with Orianna makes a bit of sense. Especially as we've seen Nocturne kind of falling by the wayside. A lot of teams realizing that he just doesn't have the damage you're hoping for in competitive play. So he's still solid. Now, Paragon covering this Ziggs would imply that Corki is likely going to the mid lane if this is locked in.
Yeah, Team of Top is decent at it. We have had the clarification from production that I'm not going insane. Everything is labeled correctly.
We trusted you. We trusted you. And production.
And it's strange. I mean, we've seen this from both of these two teams, right? I was talking about it earlier on that these two teams have a similar champion pool. I didn't know it was this similar, right? It actually looks like they're banning themselves out.
It's not. It's not that similar.
But like obviously Paragon afraid of Ruddy picking up that Seraphine and not wanting to pick it on the B1 and locking in that Corki, which we maybe expected Sin to pick up. So I mean, we have seen Last play rather aggressively in the last game, so it might be a little bit more of a rewarding playstyle on the Corki.
Well, likely I'd say last is going for the Ziggs, right? Because even I feel like Ziggs mid lane is fine into Orianna, but even still, you mostly see that in the bottom lane. As now Akka's locking in the Camille that he's had so much success on.
Yeah, why is Nara guys, you've just drafted really well. You played a very tight game, close game. Dropped the ball, but
I
did
told
very
you
well early
Aurora
on.
was
Like,
banned. They found the strat.
It's very unusual to implode this fantastically in draft after a decent setup. So hopefully there's some chaos in the second phase, because Top's going to struggle. Orianna has a nice range setup on mid. Lee Sin's going to have target access onto Corki.
Hear me out here. So, a few people have been playing this. The Cool Ghoul is real.
Okay.
With the W level 1 star, it does so much monster damage. We could see this flex into the jungle if dire circumstances happen.
I'm not ready for this.
I am. I'll tell you that.
I think you might have spent a little bit too much time in the kitchen cooking. I don't. That toast is burnt, if I'm being honest. I don't want to see that going in the jungle.
But at least I tried.
Yeah, that's anyone can cook.
Absolutely. That charcoal is not edible for anyone. All right, double support ban.
Yeah.
Like Paragon, this bot lane has got to really get some magic. Might get some magic going. This is getting out of hand.
Yeah, and I mean, they still are ready, I should say. Still have their ADC and support to lock in. I would assume that it's going to be a support 5th pick, and pick that one up for Gemsu. So the Sivir blind. I mean, Alistar for Paragon.
For Sack, yeah.
I
feel like Alistar is in a pretty decent spot in this position.
I mean, it seems like Ruddy are pretty happy to just let this game go super long, not really look for these engages and play off of Paragon.
What?
You're so confused by this Gnar pick, aren't you?
It's completely put Paragon out of joint. And while they do have a support setup,
wow, damage.
Ooh,
really? I would not love a center.
Are we just gonna do Xin Zhao center front to back? That's not enough.
Okay. I mean, this is a lot of damage for Paragon, right? 5 damage dealers on their team. A lot of AD, I would say.
It's 5 people who align straight up for a shockwave, because you've got to do front to back. You've got to approach simply. If you get a flank with a Gnar, fantastic. You've found a way. There are multiple ways that Ruddy repel it, either with a Dragon's Rage and then dive onto the front line, or with just moving faster off the back of Sivir. I'm really confused as to why Paragon have chosen it.
I will add that Xin Zhao doesn't take damage from enemies outside circle, but the Sivir W's will still bounce behind him.
Yep.
So it's still got Sivir's damage access to the backline there.
I think Errol's going to rip his head off.
This is going to be hard
to approach. For how close the previous draft was, everything lined up. It was like, oh, oh, that's nice. What on earth have I just watched? I'm not sure the emotions. Let's play this out. We're on Paragon, John. We've just
Paragon have a solo
30-minute banger, and now our emotions are a little bit high. And maybe one of our favorite champions in the chaotic order.
Yeah, I think Roy might have identified it. A little bit of a solo queue. I think you definitely have a little bit of a reading there as well, that Paragon may be picking just what they're comfortable on. I mean, the team fights look incredibly hard to navigate. When I'm looking against this Ruddy draft, trying to survive as any of the members of Paragon, I don't know how they do it. Do you have any highlights for us, Rory? How do they survive a team fight?
Right, so I'm going to use the catch-all term.
Okay.
For any team who's drafted terribly, and say, well, it really relies on the execution of the team fights. If they're able to catch up, no, sorry, if Ruddy exist in a 5v5, they're winning the team fights.
That's pretty fair.
I mean, no frontline for Paragon, right? No true frontline.
Well, Xin Zhao's there with his ult, but
and Gnar with Mega,
yeah. If Mega's timed properly, we've seen a few times.
Rory's right. There's too many conditions.
Yeah, No, this seasons have happened to go a bit sleepy just before major objective fights because they haven't been watching their Narbar. So I'm hoping Kenji has an eye on when it's bedtime and when he's feeling a bit sleepy.
I mean, I will say, with so many damage dealers on Paragon, with no front line besides, I guess we were saying Xin Zhao counts kind of on Paragon. Who's your target focus? That's my question. Temporal, who are you actually focusing on this Paragon roster? Because realistically, all 5 of those champions do damage.
I'm gonna assume the role of Ruddy Esports. Errol, fantastic mid laner, frankly overpowered at this level of play. Dominant throughout this season. Is going to push Q and R. Paragon's waiting cells. 5 people are going to lose a third of their health. Boomerang Blade is going to swing across the top. Ricochets. You hear those beautiful little sound effects. Ching, ching, ching. And the remaining 2/3 are just going to tick, 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 boom, and be gone.
Are you on the payroll?
I don't know. Like, I'm so upset at Paragon. I don't know what's happened there. You came out here swinging, and I was like, oh, damn. 2-0. I'm the problem for predicting 2-0.
Oh,
real close. And now I'm starting to feel quite vilified. I think I was right.
I mean, I can't add much more. I mean, at least we were able to talk about this draft a little bit more than I was able to talk about last game. It looks like
we have a before we cut, we do have an update from Belfast Storm Verdant, I believe.
Oh yeah.
Oh, do we? Lovely.
I believe it was Belfast Storm absolutely murdering Verdant in that game somehow. I'm not really sure.
Oh, Mr. Freeze
who could have predicted that one.
Mr. Freeze and Dunlosi murked them. That's
what was it, like
happened.
27 kills to 3 or something like that?
You're not rough.
I don't do quick maths on broadcast, but I can say a lot is.
It was like 26 to 7. It was ridiculous. It was an absolute stomp and not what we were expecting. And I think Temporal, you did kind of like compare it to this series over here. So who knows? Maybe Ruddy lose the ball again somehow in the draft. You know, every time I've actually seen a horrible draft from a team, or at least like objectively horrible, the team has won. I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah, you know what?
Every
Someone
single
said
time.
the word comfort. It can
I'm
come
saying
true.
the word cope. No, none of this. None of this.
So then, can I assume all of your guys' predictions for this series is that, or at least for this first game or second game?
Yeah, it's
yeah.
Ruddy win, and I'm a terrible analyst for thinking Paragon will win a game. It's fine.
Closer than you ever knew.
All right. Well, I won't add my 2 cents. We'll let the casters do that when they get in later and when they take us into games. So we'll go to a short break, guys, and we'll be back with the Summoner's Rift.
Alrighty, looks like we are in to the game. Looking at a beautiful deer. I am. What about you, Black Bloxer?
I'm looking at this draft.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm scratching my head a little bit. I see the vision from Paragon, yeah. And the vision is that it's Paragon, and so they love to do this stuff. Like, this team, it doesn't matter what iteration of this team absolutely loves to just come out of left field with something you've never seen before. And send analysts into conniptions. We got to see Temporal lose his mind earlier, and to be honest, I don't think he's wrong. There is a lot to do with this draft that is a little bit wild. The Gnar B3 is something I can't say I've seen in a while, and I think it's left Akers, looking at it, rubbing his hands together in glee, very happy. Timatopa potentially gonna get 3-man ganked at this level 1 if he steps up too far. I don't think he will. That would be a very silly play to make. 4-man. Sin has arrived. Uh-oh.
Yeah. Ever so slightly, this little plane is creeping further up on the mid lane.
Can't do
But
it.
yeah, the only thing I'm gonna say is that they sure like a lot of Yordles here, but looks like Snipex is gonna be the first on the menu here. Kreis is actually doing a fair amount of damage.
Yeah, that's a good chunk. That's a good chunk of damage taken off of Snipex. It will make his clear a little bit less healthy, but to be honest, it doesn't really change anything too much. Although... No, it's fine. I was just thinking about what Crisis had started, but he's fine. Everything is all good. And we do get into this game nice and easily. Now, if you like high-level analysis, unfortunately, the UKEL, what we do deliver, our teams like to throw spanners in the works, and I have seen so many bad drafts win so many games recently. So I cannot rule Paragon out. The thing is, Ruddy are such a good team that I feel like they can overcome the curse of worst draft wins. They are so good, right? Do you think they can overcome worst draft wins?
Well, I'm just gonna say yes, but like I have seen what you have seen. And I do believe in the power of worst draft wins. But I'm just gonna say, it looked like Paragon had a win on their hands in the first game.
Yes.
And somehow, that still did not work out. And with this draft, it just doesn't give me the confidence to say, like, yeah, worst draft is going to win. No, I just don't see it.
It feels like the team fights are so hard to execute right here. You really are living and breathing Kenji, managing to get into the back line, hit a big Gnar. Maybe that's the way that you managed to win this one out. Like, there is plenty of damage on this team, and I don't think you're in such a bad spot as you were last game, where Ruddy have a ton of Starex Gauge users, and you just can't finish off these kills. There's also a lot of pretty squishy champions on this Ruddy squad as well. Yeah. At the same time, though, the Orianna is just sat there as this big, terrifying monolith of Shockwave. You step up, I Shockwave. You don't step up, Rakan or Lee Sin jumps into your backline, and I Shockwave. There's a lot of ball delivery systems that are very easy to execute right here. It makes playing this Orianna a heck of a lot easier when you have these very mobile, get into the backline style of champions. And you also have got things like the Sivir who love just sitting front to back, doesn't want to go for the flanks, wants to sit there, hit, land as many of those bounce as possible as well. It's very interesting. Sipax is going to get caught out here on a ward, so is just going to be spotted out. It looks like Crisis is going to be able to pick up that little Scuttle Crab. Yep, and should be able to translate that into a 2 Scuttle Crab lead. So a little bit of an advantage right here for Ruddy's jungler. Resets are going to come through out of both the junglers around about now as well. It's a small lead, but it is something. And the Lee Sin, I mean, we were surprised by the Lee Sin early on. I think we, didn't know what was to come, right? We didn't know that the next set of things were going to be even wilder. At that point, we were naive. We'd only seen the Corki locked in. The Lee Sin is kind of wild. Crisis is great on it, loves pulling this one out, but it's not something we've seen a lot recently because it's not in the strongest of positions.
No, exactly. And this is what the desk was saying as well, but let me just hold onto my hat there. But Timotop are actually going to live.
He's okay.
Walk away from that one. But yeah, no, as you and the desk were saying, it's not in a great spot right now. So as such an early lock-in, it's not something you're used to seeing.
At the same time, though, Crisis is known for pulling out kind of whatever he wants, and honestly, it usually ends up working out for him. I mean, he's played a ton of champions at this point. From very aggressive things like the Nocturne, all the way back to the Sejuanis and the Skarnas, we've seen all sorts out of him at this point in time. And RUD, they just know how to play around their jungler so well. So far, 5 minutes in, it's been a lot less explosive than the previous game was. We could potentially see some more fights happening around the spawning grubs soon. The next Drake has popped up as well. Is going to be a Mountain. Decent to pick up for either of these teams, to be honest. Jamsu very low. Hang on.
Very low indeed. And we do see the flash forward here from last, but looks like we're gonna see that first blood coming out very soon, though. And it's not gonna be last bit. I think it might be.
Oh no!
Oh, that's what I mean. I think it might be Jamsu, and I was correct on that one. I'll gladly take that. But now Sack.
Oh
yeah, Sack will pick that one up there as well. Sin holding on to the flash. Yeah. I think flash out of vision, managing to still connect that auto attack, not certain though. So if we're gonna get a replay on it,
yeah, we're gonna get a replay.
Would be interesting to see.
Mid lane. Let's see what happened mid lane, because obviously we got to see what happened in the bot side. Errol.
Oh,
there's an attempt jumping from Snipex. Snipex doesn't pick up the kill, and RUD just turned it straight back around, pick up the first one. Crisis is easily gonna take this one down. Yeah, I mean, that was just an over-aggressive play right there out of Paragon. Gives 2 kills over and kind of negates all of the good stuff that happened for them in the bot lane, right? They picked up 2 kills. That was a good set of plays out of Sack, out of Last, but instead, 2 over to the enemy jungler, the Lee Sin, who we'd just been highlighting as an incredibly strong part of this RUD composition, of this RUD team in general. It is going to be a Grubs for Drake trade. And overall, the gold advantage does go over to RUD. They're just so good at eking out these gold advantages. Be interested to see where that is specifically sat at the moment, if that's on some specific champions, or if it's kind of just spread evenly. Wonder if we could see the gold at some point, but I mean, for now, it feels pretty even. Crisis hasn't managed to go back to base yet, so whatever gold he is sat on, we're going to see what he's able to spend it on right now. His opponent has a Coalfields, and Crisis, on returning to base, is going to be able to pick up, yeah, a lot more. That's what I was expecting.
Yeah.
You know, when you pick up those 2 kills, having pretty much all of that first item completed already, that's very strong.
Yeah, that is very strong, being able to pick up Caulfields and a pickaxe alongside that as well.
2 long swords. 2!
Yeah. How many more do you need? You know, how many more can you carry?
Yeah, I think at some point there's enough swords, right? Especially for a man walking around punching people.
Yeah, exactly. A blind man that punches people, you don't need that many swords, I would say.
Yeah, there's a million swords and knives and pickaxes sat in his back pocket. It's a little bit of a confusing game, if you think about it too literally. But no, it is just a very strong advantage right here for Crisis. The top laners have been pretty chill so far. We haven't really seen anything explosive out of them at this point, even in terms of the gold. Whoever gets ahead, now that could be very impactful, because you've got great split pushing on either a Gnar or a Camille, and I think Gnar overall can teamfight a little bit easier than a Camille can. At the same time, though,
Hero, Shockwave coming out though. Yeah, that will be an easy pickup here. Flash had already been expanded, so Erol, very well aware of that, manages to pick up a kill off the back of his ult. We do not have Rakan ulti online just yet. So no explosiveness coming out of the bot lane so far for RUD just yet, but still playing a little bit back and forth. Snipex though. Might find a good rotation here on to Erol.
Yeah, he's not got any way out of this one.
I mean, he's fast. He's fast, but he's not fast enough. And here comes double knock up here though. The root, the ulti, but Sack. Nah, there's no way. Sack actually gonna live. Sack is going to live. Goodness.
Can they get a return kill? Snipex needs to be careful. He can get killed here.
He can get killed here. The jump on him though, but the shutdown will be his. Sindo managing to still pick up that kill in trade. But now Sack still around here. Has to be careful.
Often I'm very glad that our cameras are not shown during games.
Oh, same. Oh, yeah.
The look of just utter disbelief on my face just then would have been pretty embarrassing. I mean, the decision to go in here on this dive is brilliant. You've just seen where the enemy jungler is. You're under no threat of this being turned around, but you know you've got to be quick with it. The double knockup is great, but Sack is just able to survive for so long. The healing, the shielding. It's very impressive, and the tower aggro juggling just isn't quite there. Crisis ends up having to walk quite far backwards to be able to drop the tower aggro, and now has a long way to go to try to get out. At this point, I worry for Snipex's life, but Crisis going in, takes a tower shot. It's just the wrong decision.
Yeah, it's just, you still get one more kill into your Sivir, but it's not worth giving over the shutdown to Snipex then, I would say.
No.
But yeah, it's as you said, a little bit of an unlucky circumstance the way that this came out. Now we do see Akkers stacking a lot of damage here on to Kenji. Kenji able to walk this one off though.
Yeah, not going to go down, at least, so they are at least able to keep their top laner alive, can transition that one over into the Grubs, though. And it looks like it is just going to be an even 3-for-3 Grubs trade. Sin under massive threat right now, desperately trying to clear the wave.
Yeah, TP will be committed. It's not... Oh, Flash as well, but will not be enough to keep him alive. Eero, though, with the TP to bot side, will be able to pick up Snipex off the back of that. And now Crisis. Top lane, top lane, top lane. It is that's the word. So we do see Crisis.
Oh no!
Oh, the Q gets flashed by Kenji. He will return to his Grubs, I suppose. Nope, will not return to his Grubs.
Oh, just gonna chase on forwards.
Yeah.
I think you just want to buy up the space right here to make sure Akkers is able to push this wave underneath the tower. Very low on mana, so could be under some level of threat. He can steal away a couple of camps, potentially. Does need to be careful, though. Snipex is on the way back out from base. Timothopa lives. There's so many people living on so little HP. Unfortunately, the damage just isn't here. Both of these compositions really don't come online at the 1 item mark. You're really looking for those 2-3 items to really be able to do your damage right now, and we can see it because everybody is just about living.
Yeah, and everyone really is just about living. Snipex goes unchecked here. Sin very far pushed in. Does have Gemsu to fall back on, but... Hextech Drake. Up for grabs.
Chemtech? Or is it hashtag?
Chemtech, you're right. Sorry.
Okay. Sorry, I was wondering with the icons
You are
because they are
absolutely
often
right.
wrong. Yeah, the top one says it's mountain, so everybody's a little bit confused. It looks like Ruddy potentially wanted to go for a play. Right here, you do have that, Eclipse completed. Oh, are they gonna go for a dive?
Sin? Oh my goodness, and the root barrier has to be committed as well, but Sin will fall and Jamsu will follow suit here. Beautiful double kill here on the side of Paragon, but now we do see Crisis looking to get a trade back. So much damage though, as he just tries to get anything done here. Close the space, he can't. He has to go and back off.
Is that an execute?
That is an execute.
Oh my god, it's an execute. Okay, that's a truly terrible play for Ruddy. Paragon's going to be very, very happy with that one. Picking up multiple kills, you're also now going to be able to feed a ton of these turret plates into the Ziggs. Exactly what you want to do. If we are talking about the Caitlyn as something you need to feed plates into, well, Ziggs is kind of the better version of that. Able to just bop this tower down right here. Pick up that first turret blood. Obviously, you don't have your jungler around the area because you did send him back on that reset, so you are going to lose the Drake as Paragon. It is going to be 2 Drakes going over into Ruddy's back pocket, but you don't really care. That was a ton of gold going over to Paragon, a lot of map pressure as well. They can really unlock this bottom lane, and it will be a Hextech. So, okay, that's pretty interesting because a lot of these team fights are extended. You end up getting a kill, and then you keep fighting for a while. It allows people to respawn and get up to these objectives a hell of a lot quicker. They can really increase the pace of these team fights.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say I knew it. I knew it all along.
You did?
Yeah,
I
did.
You can see into the future. You're clever.
I can. Well, I
mean,
I wish I could, but it looks like...
Tell us who wins, right?
Yeah, no, we're not doing that. No.
Nobody knows at this point. 7 for 7 in terms of the kills. I mean, the gold 1k in Paragon's favor. We're seeing the 1v1 fight in the bot lane.
Yeah, we do see that. Sin actually popping his ulti as well. Thinking he could run down Timothoper, but it's not happening. Will be shut down. No summoners available to him. And now Crisis. In a little bit of a crisis, so it looks.
Has friends.
Has friends. No Mega Gnar available. Christ is still incredibly low. Incredibly living still as well, though. Snapix trying to step forward here, trying to connect damage onto anything he can find. And he's still looking, but there is a tower that is right in his way. And that will stop everything that Paragon has been throwing at Ruddy for now.
Absolutely, Power of Friendship is going to get Crisis out, keeps him alive, and obviously you've got a lot of healing on this Lee Sin at the moment, so going to get himself back up to a decent amount of health now. Akka's under threat.
Oh, there's the quickness. Hextech ultimatum to follow though as well, though the tower will assist, and Kenji will fall. We do see Snapix still on the side, goes against trying to find anything here, but really nice snappy engage here from Ruddy to just confirm that kill.
Errol.
Oh yeah. Yeah, still has flash. So far, Shockwave will not save you there, as he will fall. The TP coming in from Acker, so. As we do see Crisis is in the area as well, but probably a good idea to just decide against that engage.
Yeah, kind of a wasted teleport. Unfortunately, out of Akka's isn't able to find the angle. Thinks that maybe with that shockwave landing that you're going to get Errol escaping. Maybe could have teleported in and tried to facilitate in that great escape, but it doesn't end up happening. The kill does go over. Timotova does a ton of damage at the moment, and you lose that tier 1 tower in the top lane as well. Paragon, they are fighting this one incredibly well. They're up a decent chunk of gold. They need to keep the tempo high, though. You know, the later and later this game gets, the more and more scary something like the Sivir is going to get. She's not that scary at the moment, but just you wait until we get on a little bit into this game. First items are completed across the board, and you can see there's nothing too out of the ordinary right here. There's nothing I'm particularly surprised by seeing. The double Trinity Force is just funny out of Paragon. You know, they're kind of jack of all trades right now, but they are very, very squishy. The Sundered Sky does give you a lot of survivability as the Jinzhao, but is that enough? I'm not so sure about that one. You're really going to be relying on a lot of healing from Sack.
Yeah, exactly. And Sack has opted to go for this Black Cleaver, incredibly strong item here on the Senna, of course, but not a like it depends, right? When you're playing Enchanter Senna, some people rush that Black Cleaver, and some other people they really favor the echoes of Helia to the Black Cleaver, getting that little extra sustain going a bit earlier. Now Kenji might be under a little bit of pressure.
I'd be surprised if they're able to actually translate this one into a kill. Jamsu is good for a little bit of extra CC, but not really a lot of damage, and killing the Gnar 100-0 here would take a while. More interestingly, perhaps, is the Drake spawning in just about a minute's time. There's a lot of vision for both of these teams around the area. Ruddy have a bit of deeper vision, though, so they are in a slightly better spot for this one. Both Errol and Timotova are up in the top lane, but they do both have teleports available to them.
That they do. We just okay. Hextech ultimatum. The quickness goes in as well here. Great charm, but still Kenji is standing. Snapix still committing the ultimate here, mainly for that disengage, but so far no real damage is done, and Ruddy kind of walking away with half health bars here, not finding the upper hand in these team fights.
No, not quite able to finish off those kills. I wonder where I've heard that one before in this series. You know, quick reminder, right? The loser of this is not out. They're not out of playoffs. This is the upper bracket. So you do still have another chance, but you are knocked down to the loser's bracket. That will be the Lance Trust Saloon. So you really do want to pick up the win right here. We are going to see the Rift Herald heading onto the mid lane. That's going to be mid lane tower down. Fight, though.
Oh, yeah. Fight indeed. Last bit. Trying to run away on the skin of his teeth here. So many ultimates being committed here back and forth. But it will be Akkers. That's the first one to go. No Hextech ultimatum to contain anybody here. Snapix will follow suit. Mega Gnar still in the middle of everybody. Crisis jumping forward, jumping back. Still alive, though. It is the TP from last, but he managed to get out and will TP back in. Just to see if they can find a little bit of damage, and it just might find Crisis, but he is able to dodge that one out. Errol, though, gets caught by the root. And Blood
Shockwave's big.
The Shockwave is big. Jamsu is there on the side, but he will be deleted right off the bat. Crisis coming forward, trying to disengage once again. So incredibly low, but it's Errol on that double kill, and now the jump forward, the flash, but it will not surmount too much else, though. Errol picks up a double kill in this exchange.
Oh my lord, what happened in that fight? It lasts for so long. You can see the idea right here out of Ruddy. You know that you're going to get a bit of an overcommit because you're going in to get that tower. So, cool, we can try for a kill. Last manages to survive, and Akers, the second he gets tagged with that mega bomb out of the Ziggs, you're just dead. The burn is going to be killing you, goes down, and that's a ton of your damage dead. And this double Gnar stun should be the death of Crisis, but Crisis just about able to survive. Jamsu too, the teleport comes in late from last, and they end up pushing forwards. And at this point, again, you should be caught out. You should be walking away. But Errol lands a great shockwave onto two people, huge amount of damage. And Jamsu, one of the best supports we've had in the league for a couple of years at this point, heads on in. They manage to pick up that first kill, and then you're just scattered. Crisis playing on a knife's edge. What is that, like 10 HP? The shield's keeping him alive, but at the point at which you've got yourself the Sun Sky, you've got the Eclipse, you just heal so much. There's so many shields coming through as well for Crisis. That was a very risky fight, but winning it is huge. They also pick up the Drake on the back end of the fight. That's now going to be soul point up for Ruddy. And they could be teetering on the edge of 2-0ing Paragon and keeping themselves in this upper bracket.
Yeah, it sure is starting to look like that, isn't it?
It's still close, though. It's still incredibly close.
It is. If you look at the gold as well, it's still incredibly close. Only 2 kills ahead here. And we do see Crisis taking a little bit of damage here. Will be rooted up.
Ouch.
Okay, ulti coming out, but so far, yeah, again, blinking health bars, but no kills.
And I feel like, despite the fact that was a lot of damage and quite a few ultis as well, it wasn't really full commit. Full commit,
No, it didn't feel like it.
it would have been a little bit too far, I think. I can see why Paragon decided to sit back, not over-aggress right there. They're in a pretty good spot. The second items have now been completed for the majority of the champions here. You're kind of just waiting on Kenji being able to pick up that next one. But you're in a good spot. You can try make these fights happen right now. Ruddy, though, they are too picking up those second items, working on those third. You're waiting a little bit longer for Ruddy to really come online, so I think Paragon, they need to try pull the trigger soon, pick themselves up a couple of kills, and then translate it into a Baron. Right now, though, Ruddy, they do have the more aggressive posturing. They're sat pretty far forward, could potentially look for a turn onto the Baron. I think it'd be risky, though.
Yeah, it looks like Snapix, though, is looking for that engage. The root comes out onto Jamsu, and gone is he. TP is gonna come in from Oriana, but will actually also be a little bit on the late side. I mean, Jamsu already gone.
Oh, Sack.
But
Oh,
just
Sack.
so many
no.
pings. So many pings coming out. Sack gets curious. He wants to have a look. There is a Hextech ultimatum in his face, and gone is he. But all of a sudden, Crisis looking incredibly low. Akers running for the hills. Sin is just trying to dance out of here. And E-roll also falling very low. Has to be mindful that Mega Gnar is now here.
Yeah, just gonna jump back. Timotopper does so much damage. I'd be surprised if he gets jumped underneath the tower right now because the shockwave is still available. But what a messy fight that ends with a couple of kills, but nothing too much going over. Sin should be fine here. Yeah, is gonna live. Wait, that could be a death.
Oh my god.
Okay, Snapix
Kept
is
him
fine.
under the tower for a very long time, but Snapix is a tanky boy, and he's gonna walk out of there.
Oh, I'm surprised nobody was able to pick themselves up a Baron or anything off of all of those fights, but instead Paragon decided to keep going with all of the fighting. Didn't turn anything around, and overall, the goal doesn't really change. We're still pretty much dead even. Paragon have maybe evened it up a little bit, but only by a couple hundred, not by anything more significant at this point. There is certainly a lot more vision around this sort of Drake area right now for Paragon. It's very deep vision for Ruddy, though. They could potentially look for some flanks.
And it looks like they might be doing just that. Hextech ultimatum not quite available yet, but it will not be long. I don't think they really need to commit onto this. But there's the TP from Timotopper, and it will send everybody running for the hills. Crisis falling so extremely low. Has to try to queue out. The ultimate, though, from Ziggs will not be able to finish him off.
Shields.
And still, Ruddy is living. E-roll, in the meantime, pushing in that mid lane. Sin, in the meantime, pushing in that... Sorry. He was pushing in the
Hang
mid
on.
lane.
Oh,
But
Snipex.
now here we go
No.
again. Another fight kicks off. Snipex goes in to find an engage here. And they're just trying to find anything, but they will find Crisis here. That flash will not save you.
Wow, Sin picks up a kill here. Lasp having to flash. Akers can still chase. They have another hookshot wall dive. No, Lasp is gonna live. Honestly, Timatopa is carrying these fights right now for
My
Paragon.
God.
Does so much damage. This Corki is melting anything that is in front of him right now. Sin once again gonna get chased. And we've seen Sin survive far too often. Is the luck gonna run out though? I think so.
Yeah, this time it looks like the luck will run out. 1 TP on the way here. So we do see Akers is arriving to the scene. Kenji on his way there as well. It will not be what Ruddy is
Gotta
looking
leave it.
for. Not today. They will give up this Drake. Paragon will be able to pick that one up for free. And Soul Point will be kept so far.
Yeah, I mean, teetering on the edge of giving over that Hextech Soul, I mean, this is a great composition to use it if you are able to pick it up for Ruddy. The Baron is now going to have to be something you start thinking about. And the thing is, like, Sin does good damage, has been able to play pretty aggressively, same with Errol, but Timatopa is just shredding people. It's all about if he lives. Obviously, you've got that rapid fire, so can sit a little bit further back to deal that initial bit of damage, but does need to step up, and it's at that point where you're looking pretty much with all you've got to go in onto this champion. See if you can pick up a kill onto this Corki, because if you let him live, he's just doing so much damage. That Gatling gun is shredding, and it's very difficult to get away from. You don't really have the kind of champions that can 100-0 burst him in the same way you really would want to.
Yeah. You are correct, but I'm just unsure how every time it seems that Corki does get to live, right?
Yeah.
Still holding on to, well, that little bit of bounty that they currently have. And this is probably the first time in the game that we're seeing the no action going on. Everybody's just kind of clearing waves and respecting and doing the handshakes here and there.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's chilling out for a little bit. We've got to have a bit of calm before the storm, and I really do think that the storm is coming. It looks like this Baron fight is going to be incredibly explosive. I think part of the reason that Ruddy are struggling so hard in these team fights is because they too don't have that big tank that can just step up. Although Snipex is chasing Akers right now, and the Baron's being taken. I mean, it's not that quick of a Baron take, especially not when you have Gemsuit and Errol step away from it, so they are going to get collapsed upon here. The Baron steal isn't likely to happen, although... Oh, hang on.
Oh, we have
Snipex
seen a
can get
lot of
into
steals
this.
coming out of Snipex, and now they're looking, but the
three
three-man
charm!
charm and the knock-up, the shockwave to follow is absolutely massive. The Dawning will not find so much. Zac will fall. Kenji in the middle of everybody will not get anything done, and it's looking like Paragon will just completely fall here. An ace to Ruddy, as I will call it, and yes, it will be, and that is just absolute carnage coming out here from Ruddy Esports.
Can they end? It looks like Ruddy wants to end right here. 20 seconds
Looks like
until anybody's going to be up and available. Lasp is going to be the first one around. Obviously, does a ton of damage and has good wave clear, but Ruddy are shredding through the base. The first Nexus tower is going to fall. The second Nexus tower is going to fall. Can they get the Nexus too?
They are going to do it. Ruddy Esports, they are looking for the Nexus here. The Zig ulti will not do much more. It will be the Nexus falling. Ruddy Esports, just like that, they grab the win once again. In a 2-0 victory against Paragon. They will continue on in this upper bracket.
I can feel it right now. I can feel Temporal's vindication of, hey, it's going well enough for Paragon. But what did they have to do? They had to step up. And the second that they stepped up, I love the just like snap engage right here. Rakan goes in, hits the charm, doesn't hit the knockup, doesn't matter, hits the charm onto enough people that they stood there, and the one shockwave, boom, right on top of their heads. You've killed everybody who sat in that shockwave, and that was your key damage contributors. The second that they're done, the game just ends. It felt like we were in for the long haul there with a lot of back and forth fights, but that's the kind of players that Ruddy are. When they decide it's over, it's over.
Yeah, and then over, it really was. They just ran for the end and got it. And yeah, as you said, and as the desk predicted, that shockwave, that is what dragged them over the line there.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, just like that, the game was gone.
Yeah, I mean, the way that Ruddy play, it's not clean. It's not clean League of Legends, but it doesn't need to be because they know how to team fight better than you do. I think it's going to be really interesting once we get later on into these playoffs to see them up against one of those other top teams that we've had. Right, we've had a lot of teams look, pretty good. Like they can take a game. Maybe they can
Mhm.
try their best, but hey, Belfast has done really well for themselves now. Be really, really interesting to see if they come up against Ruddy, what we can see from that, because this version of Ruddy, he was able to take a very close game early on and another close but snap victory game here. They're looking very scary.
Yeah, we have a game 3 on our hands for our lower bracket, which I think we will be going to after our break. But first, we will have a little bit of a break. So don't go anywhere.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. We're here for game 3 of a different series after that one. Concluded rather rather quickly, rather
Yeah.
abruptly. I mean, we can contextualize the next one, and I mean, Temporal, you were talking about game 1, game 2. They were both stomps, but Belfast Storm and Venom Crest not really, and Verdant, not really giving either one an inch. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it has been red side so far. I think I have thoughts. I have thoughts right now.
Mhm.
Looks like both of our sort of bigger teams today, so Ruddy in game 1 as well, as Verdant, didn't really show up in the way you might expect from the first seed out of the group in Belfast Storm. Paragon both gave them a bit of a test to overcome. And while Ruddy did overcome, Verdant did not. Got absolutely annihilated by Mr. Freeze's Kaiser in game 1. Dunlosi 7-0 and 10 on the Vive. Vixen 5-5 on a Gali. Looks like Synapse caused havoc for their team fighting Jinx.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a crazy one, and I mean that's just to mention game 1, right? Like game 2 was also a bit of a stomp, but towards the opposite side. Obviously, the kill score was a little bit more even, but Verdant looked a lot stronger in that one and kind of brought it back. How you feeling about that second game, Roy?
I mean, there is a trend with Belfast Storm where it's really whichever team has a Kaiser wins. Which is a really strange thing I've drawn the line with. Maybe it's just Mr. Freeze off Kaiser isn't anywhere near as good as Mr. Freeze on Kaiser.
Mm.
But yeah, game 2 spells quite a different story where like Bear Tree went 12-0-8 on a Smolder and they ended the game in 30 minutes. So clearly just mid lane fell apart and yeah, Bear Tree was able to get all the kills in the early team fights.
Yeah, and that was obviously Vixen getting Akali twice, right? So the Akali working in game 1, not really working as much in game 2, and
Hmm.
now that it is going to be, I believe that's going to be Belfast on red side. Am I wrong?
Yeah, it has been a 100% win rate through the series. They've selected red for game 3.
Hmm.
Oh, Belfast trying to get that last pick in. We don't have the draft data, but looking at this, I wouldn't be surprised to see that Synapse sort of was given a more open role in the second game. But in the first game, it was probably Vixen's Akali left right till last. And whether that sort of ability to counterpick a solo lane or give them something that can slice through and make the difference would have been a big part of it. So maybe not Akali again, but maybe something else that will give their mid laner the ability to disrupt the enemy team composition.
Well, the thing with Belfast Storm drafting is that usually R1, R2, they're locking jungle ADC and then
Mm.
whacking Vixen in for R3. I don't love Ari as a champion right now. I think people think she does way more damage than she actually does.
You're so
Uh,
right, Rory. You're so
yeah.
right.
So
We don't have time to. We
we
could
know
spend half an
Vixen
hour on just.
loves playing. We know Vixen loves playing Ari, so she might default back to that champion. I
Mm.
know she also has a Xerath and a LeBlanc in the pocket as well that she can pull out. So won't be banned out, but she's got answers outside of the Akali.
And we're into draft, so we're going to find out whether she does have answers outside of the Akali or is just going to rely on it all the way through. I mean, obviously the Smolder was a bit of a problem, so I wouldn't mind that being banned away by Belfast Storm as well. And it looks like that Kai'Sa priority is kind of, as you mentioned, the linchpin of this team. And it's curious to see that, Belfast Storm going against Verdant, right? Like the behemoths of their group. Um, they can beat them as long as they have Kai'Sa. Like,
Yeah.
and well, they don't have Kai'Sa this game.
I just saw the speed of that lock in. I've got
Yeah,
a
it's
slightly
so
delayed
fast.
setup on
So
my side.
fast.
Good gosh, that was insta locked. If you traditionally go after this in the bottom lane, we've seen it at Worlds from players like Ruler as well. It would be a test to see if Mr. Freeze is on the Xayah. Like Rel Xayah gives Kaiser a very, very hard time in her ultimate advance where she wants to, get a few doubles in, and then we see the dive and we know it's about to go down.
Well, remember, Kai'Sa is still a flex pick. We've seen Bear Tree take champions like Ezreal mid, so putting a Kai'Sa mid, I think, is fine in her current state. So that
She's
is
really
also a
strong, yeah.
possibility.
I mean, Smolder also, right, like was picked last game and is still. I'm a bit concerned. Just seeing those two champions still available for this team, and I mean, Rel MF not a massive answer to those two, in my opinion.
It can be. We spoke about conditions earlier
Mm.
in the day where there was like, maybe this champion can answer, but it's not guaranteed. I think Fortune does so well and is so powerful, but so much needs to go right. You need to be in a great position. You need that ultimate to decimate your opponents. And champions like Alistair can resist, hold on, and start to mess with your game plan.
I mean, a lot of you viewers at home cannot see what happened last game, but this is a bit of a run it back situation for Verdant right now. Belfast Storm drafting a little bit of a different draft, but this Wukong might be a wrench in things, but the Kaisa Alistar, very dominant in the last game, did insanely well for Verdant. And it's crazy that they just got it for free again.
Blind Wukong's a bit scary here, because then Belfast Storm, we've seen Don Lucy very confident on a Poppy. It could cause a lot of issues. I'd expect Belfast Storm to just lock in their jungler here. That's normally how they play around. They don't want Don Lucy being banned out.
Is Poppy a good enough answer to Wukong that you just lock it in, though?
Yeah, absolutely. It denies a lot of really solid engages, especially onto the Misfortune, where Wukong needs that extra bit of distance because MF plays fights so far in the back.
Yeah.
I think if you get this MF into pocket behind a dragon and something like an Amumu as well will help you with it, then a Poppy or something else at the back would really give Wukong and Alistair like a complete denial on approach when you can mark your own player. That's a really strong feature. So surely it's got to be banned away by Verdant here.
So how are we feeling about, I mean, I might be cooking a bit, but Bear Tree, Refresh, Yasuo. How are we feeling about that? Is that playable? Is Yasuo in a good enough state?
Yasuo into a Mumu Rail sounds difficult.
But hear me out. You have Wind Wall. So like you've automatically countered all of Belfast Storm's damage.
You're not wrong. Yeah, it is definitely the outplay button. Currently Belfast Storm seemingly not caring too much. The immediate Smolder ban, we'll see what their final ban is, as Verdant are posturing on Belfast Storm picks. The Ornn ban, maybe. It would put a lot of pressure on Vixen to perform then if they're assuming Belfast Storm are going to play towards this tank top laner.
The approach so much harder.
Yeah, I mean, it does look like they've identified a couple of the issues, and Verdant obviously playing against that Ornn last game, with that Ornn last game, don't want to let the enemy team have it. So, I mean, just taking away a lot of these strong picks, Belfast Storm, I'm glad they did identify the Smolder eventually, and did take that off the cards, but there's still so much available for Bear Tree in that mid lane for Verdant, for him to be the main damage carry for this team. And the damage spread is already pretty fine with the Kaisa being in their ADC role.
So, how do we think he's going to do it? Oriana's gone. Could, hint at something like a Syndra.
I think Vixen unironically played Xerath. Amumu Xerath is an incredibly strong combo. It does mean you're very weak to the dive, but generally you're playing so far back that as long as you keep your angles covered, you can just bully people off objectives into fights. We have seen Belfast Storm go for a long-range pick comp before that didn't work out with that Jhin Xerath combo. So no, LeBlanc locked in instead.
I like LeBlanc as well. I think.
Yeah.
I think the approach and so the setup, getting in there with a Mumu and Rel feels something that we wanted out of that Poppy pick. It doesn't really slot in here. You would be sacrificing top lane nice and early. So we'll see if Belfast can R5 that. It has been the linchpin of the series so far, the red side. And we'll eagerly await Verdant. Got to get a mid laner and a top laner in here and break that Wukong flex.
Ooh, Galio for more dive.
Are we diving?
I mean,
I think we're
Galio's also
diving.
so good. I mean, it's good into LeBlanc, right? You have the magic shield. Yone would be really indexing into that dive composition, and it kind of highlights even more this issue that I was going to identify with the LeBlanc, right? She obviously does really well at assassinating backline champions. Kaisa kind of I would say a very squirmy backline champion to get onto. Has the ult, right, can get out pretty easily. And then if you're fighting Alistar, Wukong, Galio, like LeBlanc is useless. I mean,
Olaf's such a nice lock in here.
I don't really know what LeBlanc is solving here for Belfast Storm.
He's still measuring the approach in the late game, I think. The Misfortune's not going to do it all. She's going to do a lot. But you want her to not be approachable. getting the Wukong down to half HP before you get started will be more than enough. Anything like that, whoever's walking forwards, is an evasive threat here. So it's non-committal, it's nice on fullback, full forwards, and it's really hard to sort of lock her down with things that you don't want to save for misfortune. So it's a pretty easy way to split the attention, and Synapse Sprinters Gragas that was pivotal in game 1 at keeping Verdant's team fighting composition at bay seems to have made a quick resurgence.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see. I feel like Olaf obviously is very easily able to ignore that cask and kind of run through the entirety of Belfast Storm, but there's a lot of damage on this squad to be able to melt through his health bar. A lot of it is AP though. I mean, I feel like Olaf builds a few items and doesn't really take any damage.
It's also like, is it enough to split Olaf off from the rest of his team? There's a few ways this can go. We'll have to see how Verdant actually piece it together, because even if you do find the misfortune as an Olaf, if your health is missing, she's got that ultimate piece of CC that leaves you in base for 30 seconds after level 11.
I mean, Rory, where do you think the win conditions are for these two teams based on their drafts?
I think for Verdant, it's very clear that you're playing not for lane. You're playing for like 2v2, 3v3 skirmishes where you can really make the most value off of like the intricate combos. So like Kai'Sa Wukong is actually incredibly good. Post 6, you've got the Galio Wukong combo, and then like Olaf is good with anyone, let's face it. So they're really just playing for a run down the misfortune. Then Belfast Storm have no AD damage, and our Galio can just tank it all. For Belfast Storm, they actually have very solid winning lanes. Top lane's going a bit even because Olaf can just heal up everything. But yeah, Misfortune really, really pushes Kai'Sa around in the early game. LeBlanc, if you don't greed your W out, can do a lot of poke damage into Galio. And also just get out into the river faster. So yeah, Belfast Storm really looking to claim those early dragons and then try and make picks more than try and win the 5v5 team fights.
Yeah, I think the idea of momentum rings true here. Is whether those dives will land from Verdant. You know, the Wukong has such an easy time getting Galio in over the top, like sponging cooldowns that Olaf wants to eat. It's going to be pretty split. We made a joke about execution in game 2.
Yeah.
I think all three of us saw where that was going. This time, I think we really mean it. I think that both of these teams have a pretty good chance to win. We've seen the Belfast Storm flavor. They've protected a mid laner who's going to knit something quite complicated together, hopefully. And that the Amumu and the Rel can provide the opportunity. Because otherwise, Verdant have set something up that attacks the misfortune, attacks the biggest carry, but it requires them to get their hands on it. It requires them to be there in the moment, because if you miss it, those cooldowns are massive. They're all the high stakes, high octane sort of side of things. We're not going to see, you know, Ghost Ragnarok Olaf every 60 seconds.
Yeah.
Cooldowns are long, the stakes are high, and of course, it's all in game 3.
So yeah, I mean, obviously when team fights are all down to execution, when, you know, things are even otherwise, I feel like you definitely start leaning towards when these team compositions are at their peak, right? And I think Ray hit the nail on the head when he mentioned the Belfast Storm maybe need to get ahead a little bit earlier on versus Verdant, who can kind of let themselves sit back, go into the mid to late game and start winning those team fights a little bit more reliably. So maybe a little bit of Belfast Storm being on a timer, exactly how they were in game 1, right? The game that they actually won today against Verdant, they absolutely stomped and snowballed their lead, and that made it pretty much impossible for Verdant to come back. Whereas the game where it was relatively even, Verdant were the ones who were the victors. So both teams kind of drafting towards their strengths, it seems like, right, Rory?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I really like from Belfast Storm's comp is that they've got their winning bot lane, but also Verdant have, pre-6 at least, have no mobility outwards, right? Alistair only has mobility inwards unless you position really badly against him. Kai'Sa only has the supercharger. We know how much Dunlosi loves ganking bot lane, and with Amumu, he's a generally low economy champion. Like, you can just get Leandries and then build full support tanky items. I'm thinking the Abyssal Mask, I'm thinking the Locket. So yeah, he can just spend so much time bot lane, putting so much pressure on this Kai'Sa where she can never actually scale to be a threat.
I do wonder. I like that you're on not scaling, because I think it is the way this game's going to go. If that Olaf's isolated, oh my goodness, the follow-up from Verdant is going to be the biggest wet fish slap that does absolutely nothing. Kaiser can be hit on this. I think the Amumu as well could be trapped in his own jungle. That's 3 different locations. The way these teams are actually going to have to decide where they go in the early game, quite complicated. We've missed game 1 and 2, so you notice I'm not saying exactly where they're going to go, because the mind games from your previous 2 sets are going to play the biggest part of the decision making.
Yeah, and I mean, when we're talking about mind games, that's also momentum in a series, right? And Verdant do have the most recent win. Belfast Storm, maybe not even able to remember. Maybe a little bit of a
red side, the red side buff. Yeah,
that's true. That's true.
Argument each way is that.
It's going to be interesting to see it play out with these mind games and with the mentalities of these players, because it's also not single elimination, right? Either of these 2 teams lose, they can move down into the lower bracket, they can be a little bit more comfortable, play against teams that maybe they're more comfortable playing against, and have a little bit more time to develop as teams, right? But you obviously would love to progress a little bit more comfortably. I mean, Rory, when we're talking about predictions, which team do you think is more likely to win this one based on the draft?
So, based on the draft, I want to say Verdant. But I've seen Belfast Storm with their backs against the wall the last few weeks, and they've really performed. So honestly, I was a Belfast Storm doubter. I've actually got a lot of hope for them this game, and that's not going to bite me in the arse at the end of this match.
All right, Temporal.
It's absolutely fair either way. I've been betrayed by misfortunes too many times. I think Belfast have got a reasonable shot at winning this. I think it's pretty open. Looking over the last 2 drafts, it's definitely the most open so far. I'm thinking the Galio Wukong coming over the top is going to be pretty punishing. I think that's going to be pretty brutal. Whether you're ahead and you're trying to make a move, or you're behind and you're trying to run back to your tower for safety. So I'm favoring Verdant as well. We'll see who wins in the end.
We will. All right. Well, I will not add my 2 cents because we have to throw it to the casters, guys. So we'll be right back after, a quick transition with Joy and Black Bloxer to take you guys through this game.
Yeah. Normally we'd throw it to a break, but now we're heading straight in. And so here we are in the 3rd game of a completely different best of 3. We have not seen anything of scoreboards. And it looks like whoever got Kaiser kind of got to win, as was said on the desk.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it looks like it is gonna be Verdant with the slight favourite, if that's the way that this is seriously going to go. If not, of course, both of these teams having picked up a game so far. Honestly, a little bit surprising. Belfast did not look like one of our strongest teams throughout the group stage at all, but they seem to have been able to turn it on right now, and they've got themselves a very interesting draft. I think the thing with a Misfortune Amumu composition is that it only takes 1 fight. Like, kind of how we saw in the previous game, where Ruddy found that 1 mega fight where they got the wombo combo to work. Kind of the same thing right here. If Mr. Freeze can hit that ulti, and if Donlussi can set it up for him, then you're in a great spot. But beyond that, I think that Verdant, they can be very happy with the sort of draft that they've got for themselves elsewhere.
Minions have spawned.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were talking about the Galio before as well. Then we even saw Yone, however, didn't decide to go with that one. Olaf a little bit more well-rounded perhaps in this draft and in his place as a top laner. But I do like the Galio here. I really do.
Yeah, I would agree. It stops a lot of what the LeBlanc wants to be doing. Refresh?
Refresh is interesting.
Does this work? Wow. Okay, it's just able to get away with that. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Taking a little bit of damage just to put that ward down, but you will be seeing where Donlussi is going. He's going up to... Who would have thought that he would go to the Krugs?
Yeah, shocking. Really shocking here. We're not seeing too much explosivity during this early stage right now. It is interesting that the junglers have started on opposite sides of the map, and also that Verdant, they do know where you are starting right now. You're going to be very well aware of the fact that you've got Donlussi starting towards the top side, can potentially work your way opposite to him, maybe go for a gank into the top lane. Wukong, he does struggle to set up his own ganks. You've got more than enough damage when you pair up with an Olaf, but really a lack of CC, so that one might be a little bit tricky. Mid lane, also tricky to gank onto a LeBlanc. Bot lane might be the best option, potentially. At the same time, you don't necessarily need to get all of these ganks going early on. You're happy enough to just sit and farm, because it really is on the Amumu in these sort of matchups to get those early ganks going. You're the one with the tons of CC. You're the one who doesn't really do as much damage, although obviously with a bit of AP into the mix, it can look a little bit different. So interesting to see if Tofu decides to get aggressive, or if we're going to see a little bit more of a chilled out Wukong until the level 6 hits, at which point it becomes a lot easier to gank with this champion.
Yeah, exactly. And then it just comes down to how has the snowball started running here for Belfast Storm, right? Because so far we are seeing full clear coming out here from both junglers, as you said. Bit of stuns coming down here on the bot lane. Not much else. Synapse though, taking a big chunk of his health there.
Yeah, quite a lot. And Refresh can potentially keep this aggression up, keep landing those axes, see what you can do to really chunk down as much health as possible. Always gonna leave you a little bit vulnerable to a gank. Luckily, they know where Dunlossy is, right? That's probably why you're seeing Refresh sat so far up. Dunlossy could potentially be looking for a gank right here. There isn't any vision for you and Brian. They are sat pretty far back, though. It's not like they are sat way far forward. It's going to be very exposed to a potential gank. Instead, it looks like Dunlossy is just going to complete that recall, and we are going to get a little bit of a reset right here.
That we are.
AP, yeah, going towards the AP early on, so he's going to go for the tanky items a little bit later on. Wants to deal that damage at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. That's also one way to get your lanes snowballing a little bit earlier when they don't have that many items themselves just yet. Being able to do a little bit of extra damage when you're ganking. But now he's going to see that, you know, his Raptors are stolen away, as is his opportunity to engage onto Tofu, who gets the reset off.
Yeah, indeed. Everything is nice and chill for the first 5 minutes. We saw a lot of explosivity in the previous sets of games, but different teams, different playstyles. I think both of these squads are a lot less on the side of being just, hey, we're going to brawl constantly, we're going to fight all the time. They do seem a little bit happier to sit back, relax, allow the game to happen, at least for the first couple of minutes, and then turn it explosive. We are going to have a Drake spawning at this point in the game. Looks like it is going to be a Chemtech, which is always interesting. Not necessarily one that draws people to fight around it exactly the most early on, but always getting that first Drake can be useful. Also trade it for the Grub spawning in a couple of seconds' time. See where the junglers end up, because right now we have got Tofu trying for a little bit of a lane gank right now. Is going to be able to slip into this bottom lane unnoticed, but there is quite a lot of push happening right here for you and Brian the Lion. They are going to get a visit from Vixen. I don't know if they know that Tofu's here.
They might not, and Vixen rotated down on a ward, so we'll need to be a little bit careful. There's the
Vixen
clone
dies
already, and will actually die to the ignite. The first blood will be going over to the Alistair. The stun is found, though, onto Tofu.
Vetri.
But Mr. Freeze is
Vetri.
so incredibly low, and there's absolutely no way that Dunlossy is going to walk away from this one. Verdant, with a beautiful Galio ulti to follow, will be picking up 3 kills off the back of that.
Oh, it would have been a great play right there out of Belfast Storm, but unfortunately, there's a Tofu in the bush, and they did not see Tofu sneak his way in for that lane gank. Great timing. I don't know if it was Tofu looking for a proactive play or had read that there was going to be a play happening bot lane. I think, honestly, the second one, because there was no real chance that Tofu was going to be able to go aggressive there. The lane was pushing away from him, but recognized that that was a great opportunity for Belfast to be able to get in there, try to find them some kills, and it doesn't end up working. The first blood being picked up by Brian's ignite, and then the 2 secondary kills going to Fuyu is kind of perfect. And now Brian has roamed straight from that reset up towards the top side of the map, looking to get a kill onto Synapse alongside Tofu.
Oh yeah, and there we go, double stun up, and that will be a quick pickup for Tofu here under the tower.
And we can see once again why it is that, hey, they're one of the better teams we've got in the league right now. You can see Tofu sat in this bush, and all of a sudden you're like, uh-oh, this is going to go wrong. Brian's just going to have to run. But honestly, I love the engage out of Brian. Stays alive for so long. You don't have that much damage at this point in the game. And Vixen just gets ignited, taking down Pops, and then Fuyu's able to keep sitting in, pick up a couple more kills with all of the help of the lovely Galio leaping on in. BO3 arrives to save the day, unless he is able to pick up a kill on the backside of that play, otherwise it would have been pretty terrible. As it stands though, still happy with it for Verdant, especially because you're then able to translate it into that dive and kill the top lane, and Tofu also going to pick up these grubs, trade it back for the Drake, of course. So Belfast, they're not falling massively far behind, but considering how early on we are into the game, 1,000 gold lead, losing 3 of the grubs and all of those kills does not feel good. Bot lane especially, there's a decent lead right here for you.
Yeah, exactly. And in that last skirmish or fight, we did see that Fuyu went pretty much completely uncontested, apart from just the exhaust that came down. And that is where Belfast Storm maybe have to start scratching their head a little bit, like where they're focusing their attention on.
Yeah, where can you really try to get ahead right here? As we see a little bit of the gold mid lane, dead even, jungle, very little of a gap. Top lane, there's a decent chunk of a lead for Refresh, always was going to be. This is a very good lane for him right now. And bot lane, not as much of a lead as you would expect with those 2 kills going over, but you still haven't really been able to establish that gold lead. Brian, going to be able to just walk this one out. The Lossy being in the area doesn't make it that much scarier. Even at level 5, the Alistar pretty tanky.
Yeah, exactly. Not really taking a huge amount of damage.
Gonna dive?
Looks like they're gonna dive. There's the bullet time going as well. The Lossy will fall.
It's 1 for 1 though.
Yeah, that's a 1 for 1. Not ideal, but they have to fuel something into this bot lane on the side of Belfast Storm, and I guess this is how they're wanting to do it. But 3-0 Kai'Sa this early on into the game is starting to look a little bit scary.
And extends the lead for the Kai'Sa right here, and the kill goes over to Dunlossi, so you don't even get a little bit more gold back onto Mr. Freeze. So overall, I think it's a little bit of waste. I mean, you do get the kill off of the dive. It's not a complete disaster, but always an odd decision. That's a good ulti out of Refresh, otherwise that would have been a pretty easy kill for Synapse Sprint. To Refresh, just gonna have to go back to base, take a bit of a reset right here. Has jumped out to a sizable CS lead at this point. 20 CS in the top lane is the gap, and that is translating into quite a lot of a gold advantage. Refresh doesn't take the reset though, is playing this one a little bit risky, does not have a lot of health to play around.
No health and no Ragnarok available. But Don Lossy not interested in rotating up. Looks like he's gonna get the reset off here now as well. Yeah.
He's gonna leave. I mean, it would be a pretty bad decision, I think, to stick around, especially when you've got yourself, yeah, gonna have that Tiamat on the way back, so that makes pushing these waves a hell of a lot easier. Obviously, Gragas has great wave clear. It could be pretty tricky to go toe-to-toe with that one. Perhaps going to spot out Dunlossi, but I don't really think there's going to be too much of a follow-up right here. Instead, both these teams, I think they're just going to keep circling their way around each other, watching for potential weaknesses. 1k gold lead for Verdant, so nice spot for them. Still, though, first items just now being completed is maybe the point at which we start to see slightly more explosive plays.
Yeah. Static shift and a BT. Oh, instant taunt coming out here onto fix him, but the root once again.
This is a bit of damage, I guess.
Scratch damage.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not a lot of damage, but it's a little bit.
Exactly. And I mean, they're still playing around. Dunlossi actually not spotted. Will connect the Q, will connect the ulti as well. That's some damage.
Wait.
But they will find the stun and confirm the kill. But once again, it's the Amumu picking this one up. Ultimate actually came down on the top lane. That one we missed, but Synapse will be picking up the kill here. A solo bolo for our Gragas.
And that's going to be 2 quick kills going over to Belfast Storm's top and mid, picking those ones up. You're going to be very, very happy to be able to stabilize and indeed start to win out in these lanes. The Gragas doesn't even have that first completed item, but you could see Refresh was constantly playing around an incredibly low health bar. I guess thought that they were going to be able to stay, had to kind of stick around because the wave was in a pretty terrible spot too. But ends up losing his life. BO3 has to head on up towards the top lane to be able to catch this wave, stop a ton of turret plates going down. Does mean we end up with Refresh now in the mid lane, and it's just such a disaster, because you were in a really good spot as Verdant, but they've unfortunately lost out on quite a lot of map pressure at this point. Bot lane's still fine, they're still in a really good spot there. Static Shiv, a pickaxe in hand for Fuyu. But still, not gonna be exactly the spot they would have wanted to be in as of right now.
Yeah, exactly. Not the spot they want to be in. Dragon will be spawning. And Grubs is Verdant's priority as of right now. Cloud Soul also not really anything to write home about for now. But...
No, not yet. Sign up Sprinter. It's going to spot out Tofu taking these grubs, but, I mean, Tofu does have another charge on the smite, so you're not going to be worried about having this one stolen away. Actually gets the ulti out of Sign Out Sprinter. Really wanted to steal that one away. Obviously didn't know if Tofu had already used both charges of the smite. Hadn't. And that means that this top lane is a little bit less scary. For a refresh, he was beginning to bleed pressure in this lane, so happy enough with that one. Verdant. And the game continues to be pretty slow. See, I think Refresh would have to be very worried about having to pop the ulti right here if Synapse had the ult himself, but he doesn't, so doesn't have to be quite so worried about it.
That he doesn't. He's still touristing around River for now a little bit. To see BO3 making their way towards that bottom lane.
Bot lane play potential.
Oh, some pings here to go all in. A lot of pings coming out here onto the bot lane. There's the bullet time. Sidestep by Fuyu. Wave, though, has disappeared. Fuyu extremely low. There comes the taunt onto the two frontliners. We do see another Amumu ult in, and we wish we had the bullet time now, but we don't have it. Everybody extremely low, but it will be the rel to fall first. Another kill in the pocket of Fuyu here. Mr. Freeze going to fall as well. And Dunlossie. It's gonna be the question if he's gonna live. BO3 is going to do his absolute best to try and catch him, and catch him he will.
Yeah, Vixen had basically no mana at the end of that one, so wasn't going to be able to save his poor jungler. And that's a proactive play out of Belfast Storm that goes entirely wrong. They lose multiple deaths for this one, and it's kind of a fight on two fronts. You can see Fuyu and Mr. Freeze end up kind of in their own 1v1 right here. The bullet time comes through, the wave's already gone, but the wave for Mr. Freeze disappears here. Fuyu realizes he's not going to win out on this fight. The second that he steps into this bush, Baron goes straight in, manages to pick him up. I really thought Fuyu was going to die. The shields, though, are huge, as is that hero's entrance. And the second the Baron goes down, you can just keep this chase going. Tofu picks up another kill. Vixen's able to escape, as a LeBlanc often is. But Dunlossie does not have the same level of luck, not the same level of mobility. 3 kills going over for none. And Verdant, off of what had been a great early game, iffy couple of minutes, has managed to re-establish themselves in the lead of this game. They also do have all 6 of the grubs. We weren't quite able to track that one through fully. We were more interested in seeing the potential steal out of Synapse, and that is huge for them because this team comp has a little bit of a tough time actually getting onto towers. They're very short ranged. Once you are at the towers with those 6 grubs, you're going to be able to take them down incredibly quickly.
Oh, Vixen.
Oh, the taunt.
The mind games.
Hit. It's so tricky. It's so tricky to try to catch out a LeBlanc. She's just here, there, everywhere.
Exactly. Those are only the things that a LeBlanc can do. And so Vixen will live. Rift Herald being started up by Wukong now. On the ward, but will be going over uncontested by the looks of it. Dunlossie.
Easy enough pickup here. They're going to go for another dive bot lane. I mean, this tower is pretty low, and you have a great dive potential combo between Dunlossie and Mr. Freezed.
Yeah, exactly.
He's spotted, though. If he's not spotted there, that is potentially going to be a kill. No. Vixen, though, she's going to try play a little bit more around their tree. Very tricky to try to get a kill onto the Galio at this point. It would take a ton of spell rotations to kill him. I mean, the second that Abyssal Mask is completed, he basically doesn't care about the AP damage that you have, even with that Malignance now in Vixen's pocket. But it's not really your job to take down the Galio. To be honest, the Galio is secondary. You want to pick up the kill as quickly as possible onto this Kai'Sa, maybe onto this Olaf, and then everybody else can be dealt with a little bit more slowly. You don't need to worry about them quite so much. being said, Tofu has had a pretty good game so far, and with the Trinity Force completed, is a threat as well.
Yeah, because Wukong backline access, that is something that they need to be mindful of, definitely.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Oh, Mr. Freeze? Hello?
Okay.
What was that?
Dying with Flash and Barrier up, that far pushed up
No, but
underneath.
like look at the if you had a look at
I
the
know.
pathing as well, that looked
Yeah,
like.
I'm baffled. Like, all
Yeah.
of that is baffling. The pathing, baffling. I guess, once you've pathed like that, you can't really use the Barrier or the Flash because you're dead anyway.
Yeah.
That was kind of crazy. I'm not entirely sure what we just witnessed, and it is going to result in both a bot lane tier 1 and bot lane tier 2 tower going over. Potentially, no. Okay,
Oh
not
my
going to be able to pick
God.
up the full tier 2, but that's a lot of damage to it already. Just 18 minutes into the game, can peel back, pick yourself up this Drake, and small mistake out of Mr. Freeze that ends up in big gains right here for Verdant. If they didn't already feel like they were in the lead of this game, they certainly do now.
Yeah, exactly. Hextech Drake being picked up here, the first one for them, but if they keep up this lead, it will be the first of many. Nice sidestep coming out here from the Alistar. Still finds the knock-up though. There comes the Galio as well to follow. The bullet time doesn't connect too much. Tofu falling extremely low. The shutdown will be going over to Rel though. It's an absolute heartbreak as we do see Mr. Freeze trying to put out the most damage that he can. Vixen on the skin of her teeth. Still hanging on though. But now
Wow.
BO3 will fall and it will be the kills going over to Belfast this time. Oh,
Top.
Synapse?
Refresh
Synapse.
missed an axe. I think
He
that's going to
did.
spell his death.
Yeah, he missed it again. He missed it again, and with that body slam, Synapse will confirm his dominance over this top
It's an
lane.
ace.
And
That's
that is
an
an
ace.
ace. That is an
Damn.
ace, you're right.
Okay. And what goes wrong for Verdant in this fight? The Galio OT Hero's entrance only lands onto one. The bullet time just splits the fight enough, and actually Tofu does walk back into it. You're right, not a lot of people got caught in the bullet time, but Tofu walking straight into it leaves him on very little health, and Mr. Freeze never actually gets aggressed upon. He's just full health the entire time, and you can't allow a Bloodthirster Essence Reaver Misfortune to just walk around in a fight untouched. That's gonna be your death every single time, and indeed it was. Verdant, after everything good that happened for them early on, lose straight up 5 kills in that fight, and find themselves now down in gold.
Now, that was a bit of an upset, wasn't it?
It was indeed. I was not expecting that, I gotta be honest.
No, just like we didn't expect the pathing. And see, this was the mind games, you know, that the desk was talking about. Mr. Freeze is just like, I'm gonna first walk in, and they're gonna think something about that, and then we're gonna kill them.
Yeah, I mean, clearly, all of the hype we're putting on Verdant for the way that they were playing this one out was, you know, we need to temper our expectations. It's still Verdant, it's still Belfast. They can still take games off of each other, as we've seen. Baron has spawned. I'd be surprised if we see an early Baron, though.
It'd be very early. But let's see. Because where it was a little bit quiet, I feel like now these teams are really ready to just keep on fighting each other. Is BO3 looking to find the engage here onto Vixen? Will not find it so far. Tofu is in the area.
Chasing a LeBlanc. It feels so bad. It feels so bad to try to chase her. Vixen does take a decent chunk of damage, but Dunlossie's now in the area, as is Varin.
Oh, that's a nice ultimate here to follow, but I'm not sure if they have the respective damage to kill BO3 without Mr. Freeze, but now they have arrived as well, and that will be a kill. Tofu running for the hills, but will not be making it out of there. The only thing that they'll be getting out of this is a turret on the side of Verdant.
I would be incredibly, incredibly surprised to see Verdant, the other 7-1 team that we had in Group B, lose right now. End up getting knocked down to the lower bracket. I mean, sure, Group B didn't look like it had quite as many strong teams as Group A did, but to see them lose here, to see them knocked down to the lower bracket would be incredibly surprising. This game is far from done, but you can see the top lane not going so well. The Gragas last pick really paying out right now for Synapse Sprinter. We can see just how strong Mr. Freeze is at the moment as well. And sure, You've got a lot of kills, a lot of gold right now sat on top of Fuyu, but it's very tricky to play the Kai'Sa in this game because you've got so many threats to worry about. You can't just sit and hit because there's going to be an MF. You're getting chased around by a LeBlanc who can get into the backline, and there's a ton of CC you really need to avoid out of everybody else. It's a very, very tricky game to play with this Kai'Sa. The only time it works as well as you really want it to is when everybody goes flying in, and we haven't seen a true 5v5 team fight to really test that. I think that's the last sort of moment that I need to see Verdant really pop out on top. Otherwise, I do worry that they're just going to slowly begin to bleed out this game, and it's not like it's an easy team fight to execute either.
No, exactly. I mean, that is the thing with where the comp of Verdant just becomes a little bit more complicated compared to the comp of Belfast. Execution-wise. So, Baron is still up, as it has been for a while, as you pointed out. But now we have our second Hextech Drake spawning very, very soon. Okay. Rel not really connecting the stun. Has to jump out over the wall, but a lot of people here.
Everybody is around other than Synapse, who does have the teleport, so we could see a straight up 5v5. With Brian and Beartree gonna go through the Hex Gates, potentially looking for a bit of a flank situation. They get spotted out, but they buy space, most importantly, and this Hextech Drake is just gonna melt through. It is just gonna be picked up relatively easily right here for Verdant. The response, though, really quick response out of Belfast, is to pick themselves up that mid lane tier 1 tower. Very impressive map rotation out of them. They are stopped from being able to pick up another tower in the top lane by the teleport. We don't get to see that fight, though.
Oh. Keg doesn't quite connect here, and all of a sudden, Synapse taking a ton of damage and will be shot down. Amazing play here from our Alistar to just headbutt him straight under that tower.
Yeah, I mean,
Great punishment.
I'm surprised that Synapse decides to go for that, because sure, you lose yourself out onto the Hectic Drake, but you do pick up the mid lane tower. You're in a fine spot, but just steps way too far forwards, and now potentially going to cost his team the Baron.
Yeah, he does have TP available if they can just manage to stall them out. But now here, Tofu access onto that backline. We do need to see the engage coming out, and there is the bullet time as well. He is dead indeed, you are absolutely right. The shutdown, though, will go over to Fuyu, completely uncontested on the side. He is able to pick up yet another kill. And now they can just keep running them down. Killer Instinct not available. So right now, Fuyu just has to weave their way around. But Rel will not be saved here, I don't think. No, Fuyu has time to walk all the way around, and the TP from Synapse will just be burned for nothing.
I was expecting Synapse to be able to do a little bit more, but I guess the Cosmic Drive Seraphs isn't exactly built to one-shot people. It's built for a little bit more of an extended fight to try to keep you alive a little bit alongside dealing some damage. And what a messy set of fights. The Baron doesn't go over to either of these teams. The gold ends up pretty much even as well. Small advantage to Belfast. But you gotta feel like that's the sort of confidence-boosting team fight that you really need. Fuyu, now 4 items completed, has that Banshees as well, just to try to keep himself alive a little bit better. And you could see that fight, it was so delayed that I thought maybe Mr. Freeze was going to be able to pull through. The second that you lose your jungler as well, I'm like, oh no, they've done a mistake here, but no, in the end, the fight really does work out. Sure, you lose Tofu in sort of an instant, but the rest of the team fight is more than good enough. Vixen ends up running for her life. Fuyu not going to be able to stay alive either. I mean, Mr. Freeze. Sorry, Fuyu stays alive. Mr. Freeze not going to be able to stay alive. Just gets jumped right here. And the kill goes down to Fuyu as well. So that's a ton of gold. A little bit of a shutdown into Fuyu's back pocket. That's going to be part of why Fuyu now has those 4 completed items and is sat in a very strong position.
Yeah, that is one scary Kai'Sa. But now, once again, both teams have set their eyes on the Baron, it looks like. And that's just where they're hovering around. Both top laners are in the bottom. No real advantage, as we don't have a TP on Synapse.
Where do you make this play? I mean, where do you go to? It just has to be around the Baron right now, I guess. Belfast, they don't necessarily want these straight up 5v5s, just because it is so tricky to play that kind of fight with a LeBlanc. You'd love to get a pick with the LeBlanc first, and then translate it into a team fight. I don't know how realistic that is, though. It's not like Vixen's as far ahead as you would really need, and I've seen recently in games where a very far ahead LeBlanc still isn't able to one-shot people, so instead, I think they are going to have to resort to these straight-up 5v5s, and need to be careful that BO3's ult isn't the doom of them, because it can be so impactful. Vixen right now has 4 members around her, does have a tower to fall back to, but this could still be a dead LeBlanc.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's super
Probably.
mobile. They lose
Yeah,
the tower,
she has
but
so much mobility.
I don't know what I was thinking. Why wouldn't she just jump away twice?
Well, so far, we of course can't see whether she has used her ability. So Synapse shoving in this bot lane a little bit. Try to create a little bit of extra pressure, a little bit of extra vision around that bottom side of the map. Dragon will be spawning soon.
Yeah, the Dragon, I think, is going to be possibly the most interesting bit, because neither of these teams are now going to get Soul if they pick it up, but Soul Point for either, which is going to be pretty impactful, but you can also potentially just abandon it. Snap call yourself straight over on to the Baron. Both teams have a relatively quick Baron take, neither of them just immediately melt it. I think the Belfast are going to have a slightly quicker time of taking it out, but you know, it's not like we've got a Cassiopeia in the mid lane right here that's just going to one-shot a Baron. Still, though, if you can make that snap decision, pick it up, it's going to make pushing these towers so much easier. Something both of these teams are struggling with a bit, as they are relatively short-ranged. The vision is going to go over to Verdant. Belfast, they are walking their way forwards right now. This could be a straight-up 5v5.
That it could be, and they are currently absolutely melting through the dragon. It will be going over to them uncontested, and now all of a sudden, Alistar a little bit called out here. But quick to follow is the rest of Verdant, as we do see the exhaust coming down here onto the Olaf.
Vixen.
But oh my god, Vixen just gets caught out and popped like a little bug. Gone was LeBlanc. BO3 running for the hills, but Fuyo is now completely unleashed into the backline. Picks up a double, picks up a triple, looking for Synapse next. Killer Instinct not available to them to follow. And Synapse, it looks like they will be living just for now.
It's gonna be the Drake going over to Verdant, and they pick themselves up. The team fight on top of that could potentially head over to the Baron. And I get what Vixen's doing here. I understand that she sees the angle, but unfortunately, you've already lost the Drake. Not going to be able to get a kill onto Refresh right here, but it's in a couple of seconds' time where Vixen leaps in amongst 3 members, perhaps not even trying to get a kill, but to try to delay people. This is kind of the way you have to play it out as... Hang on, there's a Baron happening on the bottom of my screen too, but she just dies as the Baron's happening.
There is a stun coming out of the Tofu. They're trying to just do all the damage that they can, but Synapse...
Stop the Baron.
Yeah, they have stopped the Baron, but they need to be mindful they can't lose too much HP here. And sidestep these Kaiser Ws, because they are hurting.
Yeah, I mean, the Kaiser hits like a truck right now, in a way that the LeBlanc just feels like she doesn't. Despite the fact I know that the LeBlanc does a ton of damage. Yet I know it in my head, but my heart feels like the LeBlanc just isn't doing anything in these fights. It's really unfortunate. I think it's a symptom of the LeBlanc far more than it's a symptom of the way that Vixen is playing it. I've not liked it so much recently, and I think it's bearing out in this game. It's pretty tricky to play out. We have seen Mr. Freeze a couple of times, though, hit some pretty big ultis. Hasn't quite managed to find another one of those huge 5-man kill everybody ones, but it's always an option. Like I always say when there's a misfortune in the game, all it takes is one big team fight and you can win it. And it looks like our teams are once again raring themselves up to go for another big team fight around the objective. This time it's the big purple worm in both of their sites.
That it is. Not a lot of vision, though, on the side of Belfast on this pit. Mr. Freeze still working his way through that minion wave on the mid side. Now is rotated up. Synapse looking to gather some vision with the kegs, but not a lot happening. Void Seeker goes wide. Stun. Root. Dunlossi, though, biding his time, decides to go in, but looks like he's getting absolutely melted, and the trade kill with the bullet time will not be enough. Mr. Freeze to follow, gets popped as well, and all of a sudden, Verdant looking like they are setting their eyes on the base of Belfast Storm.
Absolutely they are. They can keep on pushing forwards right here. Only have a cannon minion available, but the tower damage from Fuyu is more than enough to take this one down. Can push forwards. Jump onto Vixen. Vixen going to be able to get away, but there's no real damage that you're able to do. You lose out onto a tower, a mid lane inhibitor as well. Peeling back, potentially looking to pick up a kill right there onto Varin, who decided to go in through that portal. And now the turn back over onto the Baron is going to happen right here. Straight over onto it. You're only missing Refresh. Obviously, Refresh does not have a teleport, and there is a response out of Belfast. This could be risky.
Yeah, this could be risky indeed. We do have Magnet Storm available to us as well. Vixen now actually doing a lot of damage here to the Alistar, forcing them to pick up a little bit of that honey fruit. Dunlossie, though, will not let the Baron leash and picks up the aggro on that instead. But now, Refresh has arrived. And now it's all coming down to how is Mr. Freeze going to position themselves. Bullet time not available just yet. There's the flash, there's the taunt, and it's actually massive. The Void Seekers are connected, but Bear Tree is the one to follow first. Vorin with the counter engage on the Magnet Storm, and everyone is starting to fall low, but it looks like this time it is 1,000 shutdown going over to this Rel. Are you absolutely kidding me? Synapse in the middle of everybody gets knocked up. He looks for that last little body slam just to try and get something going. The base is starting to take damage. Super minions on the Nexus turrets. Vixen is there to try and clean it up, but look at how much damage these towers have already taken. Yes, exactly. It's LeBlanc.
Wait, no. Oh, that's so sad right there. Oh, like you said, 1,000 gold shutdown ended up going over to Varin. These team fights are incredibly messy. It's so hard to track who's gonna win them. And in that fight, honestly, back and forth. Mr. Freeze never managed to hit the bullet time, I think, is the main reason that Verdant just about lost that one. But they picked up a ton of kills. Unfortunate that all of the shutdown gold goes onto the Rel. But still, it was off of a mega Varin engage that you were able to even think to play that fight out. It is going to be the Hextech Soul going over to Verdant. There's nothing that you can do about that one as Belfast Storm, and that is a huge boon to Verdant's ability to play out these team fights. It's going to be a lot scarier now as Belfast to try to make these fights work, getting slowed, extra damage, all the things you don't want when you're playing these kinds of immobile champions already, like the MF.
Yeah, exactly. Misfortune under a lot of pressure in all of these fights, and as you said, like the bullet time not being available yet was really, really rough, but Mr. Freeze was gone in a matter of seconds, right? So there wasn't a lot that they could have done here.
Yeah, it was always going to be pretty hard for them to play out that fight, but oh boy, it's got to feel rough not being able to find these fights right now. Belfast, if they do get knocked down to the losers bracket, though, they should be very proud of themselves. This has been quite the series from them, and definitely going to be scary in the next round. We are going to see another fight around the Baron, the third in a row at this point.
Yeah, and look how fast they are melting this Baron. It's absolute madness. Now Vixen trying to get a little bit of damage done, but this Baron is just gone. This Baron is gone.
Can they win the fight, though?
Oh my. They're looking to do some damage here onto the Alistar, but the Alistar not all too impressed. And the Void Seekers just keep connecting.
With the soul,
the taunts keep coming out. But yeah, look at that. Look at Olaf. He's just in the middle of everybody. He will fall, but look how low everybody is. It's just an open playground for Fuyu with the killer instinct to go in and clean house here. And that is exactly what they will be doing. A triple kill picked up here. A quadra kill to pick it up. An ace. Belfast Storm. This is Verdant marching to the base and claiming their victory in this best out of 3 to stay in the upper bracket and go up against RUD Esports.
It's a 26-minute banger right here. Verdant, they are going to come out on top as was expected, but Belfast certainly gave them a run for their money. I'd be very impressed with myself if I am Belfast. They're going to be an absolute terror in the losers bracket. Still, Verdant, they're able to pick up that win. They are still going to be titans of the upper bracket, the champions coming out of Group B. What a matchup it'll be potentially if we can see them and Ruddy face it off. Very different playstyles, very different ways of looking at the game. This one was a great series, though. The one earlier and this game right here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, We've had a lot of very entertaining games to cast today, haven't we?
Yes, absolutely we have.
We just got hot dropped into this one, but still the desk is right, and it looks like the one who gets Kai'Sa gets the win. And that
So
is
strong.
that is maybe just the state of Kai'Sa right now, but that was definitely also how Fuyu played out this game, because we did say as well like how tricky it is into all the CC, into this LeBlanc, and everybody is trying to catch you. How impossible it can be to play the Kai'Sa here, and just very, very well done to Fuyu here for playing it out in such a great way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the devs will go into it more, but it was very tricky to play out the LeBlanc in this game. We saw multiple team fights where the bullet time was never able to happen. You were never able to get it off. It was a really tricky composition to play, but Belfast Storm, they showed ways in which it could work. They won a couple of big team fights. In the end, though, it does feel a little bit like Verdant are inevitable.
It started feeling that way somewhere halfway into the game, and then you saw a little bit of the light, but it got snatched away pretty quickly. I think that we are about ready with our analyst desk, and I would love to hear what they have to say. That will be all for us for today, but let's throw to the analyst desk. Drake, take it away.
Thank you, Joy. And hello, everybody. What a game. What a night. That was the result that we were all kind of expecting, I will admit, after watching that draft. But nonetheless, Kai'Sa, like you mentioned, is
Kai'Sa
Well,
good.
we
Kai'Sa
did
good.
predict Belfast, didn't we?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was still thinking Verdant. Obviously, I didn't get to fully explain that.
You were keeping it in the pocket to show off later.
Yes.
Yeah. We get
Of
it.
course, of course.
Just gonna take the win on Paragon, gifting me the 2-0 prediction correction, and of course Verdant keeping it together. That was a pretty strong showing.
Definitely was. And I mean, it definitely was a closer series than maybe we were expecting, right? Verdant being top of their group. We expected it to be somewhat dominant. We expected it to be a stomp in this series, but it was far from, right? Belfast doing really, really well in that first game to absolutely close that one out super, super quickly. And then the second game, a little bit more contentious. The third one, as mentioned by our casters, very close, very back and forth. But in the end, once that second Hextech Dragon was picked up, it became pretty reasonably expected. So, Rory, do you want to walk us through this 15-minute team fight where Verdant actually won?
So, yeah, early spoilers on who wins this. There's no surprise, really. So, Mr. Freeze here tries to get some poke down on Fuyu, but Fuyu does the advanced tactic of walk to the side when the bullet time comes out. So, overall, it's not too effective. And then we see it's a bit weird because Belfast Storm is opening for the dive here. Tofu is able to read the play. We see Vixen coming over the wall to add some extra damage, but they're just constantly forgetting about the power of this Galio in these early fights, especially. And that's really Belfast Storm's downfall in this game. Was Tofi was able to read Dunnosi's plays very successfully, and a combo of Tofu and Bear Tree were just able to support their weakest lane, which was their bot.
Yeah, a case of, Tofu played Wukong and played it very well, and then, Galio existed in the game. A little bit of those two things coinciding. And I mean, it definitely did look like, despite Belfast actually having a lot of proactivity on the map, finding a couple of these plays in this instance as well, right? They were the ones starting it all off. It was just Verdant kind of winning out when it mattered the most, I would say. But I mean, Temporal. Sorry?
That's all right. Go for it. Go for it.
I was just going to say that later on, though, Belfast kind of brought it back and started to win a couple of these team fights. Do you want to walk us through this next one that they actually ended up winning?
Yeah, absolutely. They sort of had that repel Verdant on the first few approaches from Belfast Storm, but as especially LeBlanc gets a bit trickier and a bit stronger, we start to see some further things come through. This is Fuyu and crew running away, running down through the tri bush back to their teleporting friends coming in. And early numbers advantage for Belfast gets completely nullified as Galio comes in over the top. Bullet time's pretty good. This chunks out multiple members of Verdant. And Fuyu can't quite break through, can't quite overwhelm as the Kaiser should. Vixen gets away, donating no gold over. So despite what looks like a great setup for Verdant earlier on, actually, this is Belfast's nuance on the approach. And of course, an excellent 1 versus 1 outplay here from Ethan. Manages to dodge away from those axes. Refresh is a very skilled Olaf. Everyone has their day, and it turns out it's drink time somewhere in the world.
Just the emote at the end by Signups knowing I shouldn't
He
have
knew-
won
he
this,
knew
but you know what? I
exactly.
dodged out. So yeah, it all works in the end.
Cherry on top there. And I
Mm.
mean, it kind of showed that, Belfast had the makings of winning out everywhere on the map, right? So it wasn't just a closeout. It wasn't Verdant being Verdant and just absolutely dominating this series. It was Belfast even fighting really, really hard in this last game and narrowly losing out, I feel like.
Yeah.
It just kind of started to come apart post like this point, right? Like I feel like it was so close until it just wasn't, and then it didn't look close ever again, Rory.
Yeah, very true. And I'm gonna be honest. I'll go on my notes that there's a Baron fight. We had so many Baron fights or fights just adjacent to Baron, where it was one member of Belfast Storm against the world, and that's normally how the team fight kicked off. I'm not too sure. I'm sure we'll see in the replay when it is ready to come up. But yeah, the Baron control by Verdant as a whole this game was pretty solid.
Yeah.
Especially when they know they have to send members back to base, they were able to still hold some vision. So here we're going to see start off by Verdant. I think here Lil Pants gets really caught out, but honestly, the Galio coming in offers defensive, and even though it's a really solid bullet time, Olaf just doesn't care, and Mr. Freeze is just getting bopped down by Bear Tree. As greets that final auto, which means Bear Tree is able to close the distance, unfortunately. And then, Fuyu just takes over this fight, coming in with a killer instinct from the side, doing all the extra damage that's necessary. And you got to feel in draft, you got to look back at this LeBlanc and be like, did we consider that they could just say, oh, I'm putting up a meat wall? Unlucky.
Yeah, it was a bit of a problem, and I mean that's
Yeah.
not even to mention Fuyu being a problem, right? Like this guy on the Kaisa, disgusting. Seeing Kaisa dominate all 3 games, or like at least the first 2, and then letting it through on the 3rd one. I mean, we kind of could have predicted it from that point, but it was absolutely dominant. And I mean, I feel like with any other ADC, it might have been a completely different story. I don't know about you, Temporal.
Maybe not Misfortune. I think we did mention that it has like technically a winning lane, which is good. If any of our teams tonight were confident in like closing out a lead they've generated from a lane, I think we might have seen different results, and that's okay. It is about that coming together, that tenacity, and that grit to keep going through the game. And it's clear that when you do get to that phase, you sort of come up for air. Someone's got a bit of a gold lead, but it's now sort of time to play those bigger team fights. The Kaiser is overwhelmingly powerful.
Definitely is. So we'll have to see, in the future of this bracket as these 2 games have finished up. It's going to be Belfast Storm moving down into that lower bracket. It's going to be Verdant moving on in this upper bracket, as well as obviously Ruddy on the opposite side moving on in the upper bracket. And it will be whoever it was. Why is my brain
It's
blowing up?
okay. It's late. It's late.
Who was it?
Venom Crest? I believe it's Venom
No,
Crest.
well, no. It's not Venom Crest up there.
It's
Who
not.
else played today? Oh my goodness.
Paragon.
That's it.
Sorry, my
It's
bad.
going to be Paragon
That's on me,
moving on into the lower bracket as well. And it's undetermined for now, but one of them will be playing Venom Crest. One of them will be playing Nuclear Vikings on that bottom side.
Yeah,
And,
we're triple checking the rule book, and
Yeah.
I can read a channel that the triple checking is going on in right now. What we think is going to be, we're just checking the rules to make sure we're not upsetting the format at all, is Paragon versus the Nuclear Vikings and Belfast Storm versus Venom Crest when our lower bracket continues.
All right. Well, that's going to be it from us here today, guys. Thank you so much for joining us here for the playoffs round 1. And we'll be back in a few days with the remainder of the playoffs, or at least the remainder of playoffs round 1. We'll see you guys shortly.
Bye.
Right.